See, they're trying to show stuff. I missed and hit the button. But you know what? I'm going to find that. I better not be done lost that video. Ooh, I better not be done lost that 2-hour video I was making. But as much as I talk, I can make it again. Okay, you see, we're learning step by step because I am now a memoirist. Per my lookup for Maya Angelou's birthday. It'll be in the other video that I just wondered if I lost. But anyway, Maya Angelou's birthday is today, April 4th, 1928. It is April 4th, 2025. And I am making a video that is a smorgasbord because my videos are gumbo-ish, meaning they got a whole bunch of stuff in them. But this is my raw shea butter, and I was trying to show the shea butter on the altar. I make it in a bowl like I make cake mix. And if you can see behind it on the altar, that is raw coconut oil in a jar. And there are also containers of raw white shea butter because the black shea butter terribly stains your tub. It leaves your tub extremely black. If you use shea butter and you're wondering why your tub is so black, it's the yellow shea butter that leaves terrible stains in your tub. And a new oil that I bought, and see why I'm saying is because I thought about getting up to pick up the kokum butter, Kokum, to show you what kind of container it looks like. It looks a lot like shea butter and cocoa butter and mango butter. But I discovered it. It's also great for the skin. So I twisted my hair with it, with some of this after it was whipped up. And I am really noticing a difference in my locks. So I do have dreadlocks. So I'm noticing a huge difference in it since I added the kokum butter to my new mix. But I whip it like I'm making a cake. And it's shea butter. It's kokum butter. It's coconut oil. And they're all raw. And it's other few good ingredients. There's ginger in there. There's neem powder. And I first heard of neem oil years ago, and I was trying to make a mix for my brother and his eczema and his skin issues. He developed my mom's skin stuff. Bless his heart. I'm so thankful that I didn't get all the skin issues that my mom had. She's just one of those people that can't eat ketchup and acidic foods. My brother was overeating acidic foods. It was nothing for him to go through a whole bottle of ketchup because he used to just eat ketchup, french fries, and chicken nuggets from McDonald's. And so it turned his skin literally from, he's much lighter than me. He's a light-skinned black guy. He went from light skin to way darker than me. And the texture of his skin literally was like an alligator. It was hard. It was crusty. It was something that I started creating products and scrubs for. So that's the reason why I make what I make, and that's why my stuff is anointed. Because I prayed over it and I prayed over him. And would pray over him. He was going through terrible skin stuff and terrible eczema. It was bad. Like I said, he ended up looking and feeling like an alligator, and literally it hid his light skin tone to like down to like where he looked dark, but you could see the light skinnedness in different places, the same as you would people that have that what is that thing Michael Jackson had? You know, that skin disease where they're really, really light and it's in patches. But his was like that on an eczema level where the texture was different. But anyway, that's why I make what I make. So there is neem in it. Neem is great for if you're trying to do some skin stuff, some rash stuff. But if you get neem oil itself, you run and you get some that's in a bottle like oils mostly come in, it smells like rotten eggs. It smells very bad. So anything you make with it is going to smell bad. And I remember I made it for my first lady, her daughter. I think it was, what did I make some for her daughter, her son? She had a little girl. She's biracial. So she was somebody who'd always known long biracial hair. But her daughter came out probably with her black father's hair. So the daughter was bald, like the first maybe 2 years of her life, baby bald, because white babies a lot of times can be bald for a really, really long time. But the texture of the hair was not the texture of a biracial black girl who's always known long, curly, wavy hair. My mom had that kind of hair. My mom had a long, wavy, it's Latina type hair. My mom had that texture of hair where you can wet it down with water and grease. So I have a mixture of that kind of hair. My hair isn't technically just coarse. So my hair is also very hard to lock when you begin. But once it's locked, you're good. But when you're starting those locks, this kind of little stuff you see here, that's how it grows. You can see the little waves and the curls. So you see how now this has gone from shea butter that I make to a hair texture video. But we are no longer procrastinating. We are no longer rushing ourselves and judging ourselves. We are finishing products and projects as of April 4th, 2025. Let it be known. Huh? Let it be known that we're finishing things because I'm a memoirist. That's what they call Maya Angelou when I Googled her birthday to put inside of this candle that I was dressing for her in honor of her birthday to place on my altar, which I usually leave a candle on the altar. The other one just burned out today, so this is the new candle. But I noticed Dollar Tree is where I normally would buy these used to be 7-day candles. At least 3 to 7 day candles. So if you know anything about doing work is what I'll call it. Work is just African traditional religions. If you are Asian, it's Asian traditional religion. If you are of whatever ethnicity, Santeria, that would be our Spanish speaking folk of any nationality, you dress your candle. Dressing candles is just another way of dressing your altar and honoring your ancestors. I have always known that it's a good thing to watch Disney and G-rated and Disney movies and stuff like that to keep from watching a lot of hard TV, because I found myself in a place where I was doing way too much bad TV watching. You see how I turned this camera on as my second camera to show y'all how I first learned to use my Temu camera. And I was supposed to have been putting this camera that's brand new that I've never used because it didn't come with any directions and I didn't know how to use it, and I'm 53, and that made me so mad that I didn't want to use it. So I haven't been making videos or using this camera stand, which I bought a really long time ago. And I was going to make a video of myself putting this camera on this camera stand, which would be used for me to make a video about everything that I'm talking about, which is never just one thing that I'm talking about. And I wasn't going to make it because I usually don't make it because I ain't got on my clothes. So let me put on something to cover that part up that y'all done saw that I probably would edit out. But I got on my pajamas. It's a Christmas sleeping t-shirt that I got from Walmart. That's how my Aunt Faye used to say Walmart. Walmart. Shout out to my Aunt Linda Faye. We speak your name. Linda Faye Jenkins Babers. We speak your name. But yeah, there's so much I want to talk about. Everything from ancestors, which starts with an A, to Z, Zionist, which means religious stuff. I want to talk about religion. I am a Pentecostal bred. I actually started off missionary Baptist, Louisiana missionary Baptist, which means they were doing hoodoo circles back then in the Baptist church. They had spirit possession back then. We just called it shouting the Holy Ghost. So if you're from the Missionary Baptist Church, I grew up in Midway Baptist Church, number 2, Midway Missionary Baptist Church, number 2, 1535 Myrtle Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, around the corner from where 50 Cent gonna be making his productions, or already making them, because 50 Cent is buying up Shreveport, which I literally prayed to come to pass, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, In Shreveport, in the Missionary Baptist Church, we had a really good choir. Shout out to Terry Williams, was our choir director. John L. Collins was our choir director. Terry Williams was the piano player. He was also my personal music piano teacher. Came by the house to teach me piano lessons. I would get in the car and ride around with Terry in the summertime and go from piano student house to piano student house, so their parents could hear Taronda play the piano the way Terry had taught her to play, so that they could start keeping up with doing their child's piano lessons. For people who didn't consistently continue with paying for their child's piano lessons, Terry would use me as the advertisement to ride around, hang out, buy me a big old icy. We riding in the car, him smoking them doggone cigarettes, me and my icy. Nothing bad ever happened because I was Leotha Jenkins' grandbaby. Leotha Jenkins, we speak your name. Nothing bad ever happened. It was just good, but that was what I grew up on. Hanging out with Terry. And Terry was our church musician. And Midway was a choir that was known for singing and having musicals. We had a kiddie choir, which were the children. We had the inspiration chorus, which were the teenagers. And then we had the young adult choir that turned into the choir my mama was in, which were all the grown folks up to maybe their 40s. And then after 40 and over, you had the general choir. So my mama's choir was called the angelic chorus. You see that Louisiana twang comes in? Chorus. Angelic chorus. It was chorus. Angelic chorus. See, in my other video, I was talking about the accents. And the general choir was my grandmama's choir. That was the old folks. So each of those choirs sang a certain type of gospel music. And so that's why I now have Chocolate Chip Gumbo. You can Google that on SoundCloud. You can go back and listen to all of my gospel music radio DJing that I had done. That's how my grandmama used to talk. I has done the radio, for she put them R's up in there too when she was talking proper. Radio. I was a radio DJ around to why do black people have to, this is how my aunt them talk. They have to make it sound like it's an announcement. My Aunt Joyce, if she wants something, she'll talk loud so everybody in the house can stop talking about whatever they talking about and listen to what she got to say. I was a radio DJ. I was a radio DJ around the Georgia State University when I went back after 30 years of being at Morris Brown College. I'm not sure if Morris Brown is open or not, but it's still a campus. But Morris Brown College in the Atlanta University Center, an Atlanta University around the corner from Morehouse College and Spelman College and Clark Atlanta University, and to Interdenominational Theological Seminary Centers. Probably said that wrong, but I fixed it. Because I'm talking like this, we can say it wrong because you be getting stuff wrong, but you loud and wrong. But yeah. I went back to Georgia State in 2015 to finish a degree that I flunked out of Georgia State on in 1994 after my pastor was messing around and the church my Black Pentecostal church went bonkers, and it really, really turned into a cult. So yeah, that's a whole. I got stories and all that's in this one little mind. And you expect me to talk about something and stay on topic. But if you know me, I'm known for jumping around from thing to thing. So if you watch my videos, you save this for your road trip. When you're going to be on the road and in the car a long time. And if you're in Atlanta, especially California and these other places, in that 2-3 hour traffic on your way and after work, that's when you turn on the Taronda video and you just let it roll. And you listen to all this stuff I'm talking about because you don't want to fast forward 2 minutes later, because you can miss a whole lot in 2 minutes. I could be telling you some good information. Ooh, that, got my skin looking good. Okay, I was wondering if them things was working. They was, because baby, when I tell you I had some bags about this big under my eye. And I put them things on for about 2 or 3 hours. They're 24 karat gold. I just took them off. I wore them through the beginning of the video, but I just them balled up and thrown in the trash. And this is my trash. See, I have small plastic bags that I turn in the trash. And see, I be having anxiety about the ozone layer because I'm using these plastic bags. Those of you who know, you know. But that's a whole nother video. I'll talk about that one day. Or another, yeah, anyway. I was going to put this camera. I have to make myself stop on this. But we are addressing ADD in the name of Maya Angelou, and procrastination, and anything else that attacks attention spans. And I'm being nice to myself. So, yeah, I know I done talked about 90 things in the last few minutes, but that's okay. It's all right anyhow. I'm just going to pick one of the things that's sitting in front of me, this shea butter. This is raw coconut oil, white raw shea butter, kokum butter, which is like shea butter, KOKUM. It's like mango butter and cocoa butter, and just all there are other trees that grow in other places outside of the U.S. and kokum is one of them, where that kokum butter comes from. Kokum butter is great for the skin. So I make my own whipped mix with a hand mixer, like I'm sitting here making a cake, which I also have done as well. Yesterday I made a cake. So I whip this in a hand mixer, and I speak over it, I pray over it, and I lay it on my altar after I'm done. So that good ancestors like Leotha Jenkins, we speak your name, and Maya Angelou can anoint it. I got Bishop Charles Harrison Mason on my altar. I felt a little something. Dr. Gertrude Stacks on my altar. And so you can't see him, but she off in the back. I'm too lazy to get up. Well, I'm not lazy. And that's also what I'm learning. So on today, in honor of Maya Angelou, I will start a new file. I'm a writer, and I keep all of my books, all of my writing on OneDrive. And that way it can't be lost. It can't disappear. I can keep it. And anytime I have an idea for a new book, I write everything from fiction to children's books to adult fiction to young adult fiction to nonfiction, which would be a memoir. And so on today, I will create a new memoir, which, as you can see here, that's just that's not the actual screen. That's another screen. But I'm going to create a memoir file. I think I might name it 4047 because that's the number address of the street, the house that everybody in my family grew up in and was raised in. 4047 is probably what I'll call it. But it's going to be my memoir about being a woman over 50 who's had a breast reduction in 1995, who has lost weight through Ozempic after 3 strokes, who doesn't even look like, do my face look like a stroke? My mouth hanging down like that on 3 different occasions in the middle of a stroke, and my arm was like this while the stroke was going on. Now, when I came out of the stroke, my hands could still work. I couldn't grip as well on the 3rd stroke, or really on the first 2 either. It affected my grip a little bit. It affected my equilibrium. It affected the eyesight. It affects my thinking and my cancel. It affected. I have to watch what I say and be watching how I say it. And this is just a lesson in, I'm making this so that I can show how I did therapy on myself without physical therapy. I was my own physical therapist because I really am a real life, true licensed massage therapist in Georgia and in Louisiana, nationally certified and insured by the American Massage Therapy Association. I am currently insured by the American Massage Therapy Association. But I am a real massage therapist. And in my bragging rights, I've worked on Mariah Carey. Now, I said I wasn't going to say that, but there's a joke about she's one of the famous people that I've worked on. I would be a lie and the truth wouldn't be in me if I sat up here and tried to act as if I wasn't excited about having met Mariah Carey and worked on her. But I worked under the name of Yahriel's Hands of Fire, so I can tell what I want to tell. But that's all I'm telling, because when you go to work on Mariah Carey, you about to sign a contract saying you won't do what I just did. But that's all I'm telling. You ain't going to get no more information than that. But I also had a contract for her to sign saying that this is non-sexual and blah, 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 blah. So she has the contracts, and I had already been forewarned because I was working for, and I can tell this because this hotel is not there anymore. I was on call with the concierge at the Ritz-Carlton in Atlanta. That hotel no longer, well, the one that I'm talking about no longer exists. There are other ones there, but the one that I was at, it doesn't exist. But the way it would go is a concierge is a hotel attendant he's like your butler. He'll find whatever you need when you're a rich person staying at a hotel and you need something. So I was at the top of the list and yeah, I'm saying it braggingly because folks try to tear you down. Don't be coming in no hotel telling me I know. I'm gonna go find that girl name so I can say her name throughout this video. But Don King's little girlfriend, probably ain't even his girlfriend no more, come up in there talking about, if she's working at this hotel the next time I'm here, I will not. She got me fired with this. This is how she got me fired. She says, I will not come back to the W Hotel Bliss Spa again as long as she's working here. I will not come back. She wanted my motherfucking job. Yeah, I'm looking like this because this was the key behind why I had a nervous breakdown a couple of years later. Because I was sleeping in my car, fooling with her. Her and two other people that came in lying on me on my good job. But thanks be unto God, who gives us the victory. The scripture says in the little book that he'll make your enemies your footstool. Ha! That was real. That wasn't play. He'll make your enemies your footstool. He prepares a table before you in the presence of those same enemies. Yeah, they came through and did some stuff to adding up to using directors who did what they did. And the main director, I was so surprised because this was a situation where you ever have somebody do something to you and somebody be mad at you and not like you and you not even know you had a problem with them. This was one of those situations. I thought they loved the Big Run. The Big Run is me. Some of my friends call me Big Run. Depends on how long you've known me. Back when Mark used to say the big mod and the big this and the big that, I coined the phrase the Big Run back in them 90s. And so some of my friends that met me around that time, jokingly and playfully and lovingly, that's one of the pet names that they use. The Big Run. You know, you get on the phone, you talk smack when you first get on the phone. You, hey, what's up? Big Run is a Big Run. But, yeah. They lied on the Big Run. They come around there, the Big Run job. Big Run was around there healing the people. Them folks was down there in the room, on the table, crying. That's how my Aunt Joy say crying. Crying for the Lord. Literally. I wasn't down there preaching Jesus. I laid hands on the felt that. Excuse me, y'all. God is up in my little video. I would go in there, I put the oil on my hands. I guess I'll twist a lock while I got y'all on the phone. I can show you how I'm twisting a lock while I'm telling my story. But yeah, this is how you use Tehran Shea, my personal signature shea butter that I make that has neem oil in it. This is how you twist a lock, by the way. As you can see, I'm going to get a little closer. This lock is growing. So as the lock grows, you got the lock, the part that has locked. Then you got the new growth, which is there. So the way you twist the lock, my texture of hair is not coarse. So in the lock world, it's considered hard to lock. So I have to take a twist of it, and I put a little bit of shea butter on it. Number one, to moisturize this brand new virgin hair. It's going to get the shea butter in it. And it's all about the grip. You're gripping it, and it's on the level of slicking your hair back in a ponytail. Ain't it funny how things have changed when you're listening to Tarana? That's how my grandmama them say my name. Tarana. It got two N's. That little wavy mark that's over the N. Okay, so I get my lock like this. These are all the things when I'm doing it, I'll be saying I need to make a video of myself doing this, and I don't, because you want to organize stuff in the right way. I got a little storage thing in the middle of my brand new sofa from Big Lots. As you can see right there. Yeah, so I just pulled that open and pulled out the jam gel. When I started my locks, a guy came by, and this was back in Detroit, back in, not this particular set of locks. When I very, very first started locking, I went from just wearing my hair natural in a fro and wash as soon as you get out the shower, curly hair. You see about how much I got. This is jam gel. This works like a charm. Let's jam. This is the tightest one you can find. So this is the extra hold. Extra hold jam gel. I swear by this for locking. Get you some of this and contact me and get you some Taranche. Now you can make your own Taranche. It just ain't gonna be Taranche. Let's just say you can make your own butter, because I've given you the ingredients, but it's not gonna have the anointing. It's not gonna specifically have everything that I have in it. But if you twist with any of the aforementioned coconut oil, a mix of coconut and raw shea, at least those two, but you can use mango or whatever you want to use. But I use coconut, raw shea, kokum, Kokum, coconut oil, raw shea, kokum, and white shea butter. So I use those three: coconut, raw coconut, and raw shea butter. And I get some gel. After for the virgin hair, we talking new growth, retwisting locks. I'm going to have to find something to pin it back. But I get, I don't want to do it because I got the stuff on my hand. I'm going to need to use my hand. But you see, and that's why I'm attacking this whole ADHD thing. It ain't there's something wrong with you. I be thinking stuff. And stuff don't get done because I get so tired because there's so many thoughts coming through my head at one time until I just sit back and sit there and I'll be playing a solitaire-like game on my phone for hours. And it's such a waste of time. And books don't get finished writing. Books don't get written. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't finish writing when I got all of these stories and all of this stuff, from memoirs to Peaceful Tree, the wonderful fiction story that has I'm going to do them 13 episodes because I learned in film school it's good to at least have 13 episodes for your first season. But see, that's all the stuff I can talk about while I'm doing it. So here we go. I just put that jam gel on here. My texture of hair is water and grease texture. I'm going to stop what I'm doing, find a hair tie, and pull the rest of this hair back because that's going to get on my last nerve. And the reason why I started recording stuff because I wanted people to see the junkiness. This is my brand new sofa from Big Lots after having spent 9 months living in the low barrier shelter in New Orleans, as in homeless. I went to get my other sofa out of storage that matches that chair right there. That's a recliner. I had a sectional sofa. It was really nice that I also paid for from Big Lots. And Big Lots because I can use progressive leasing. Yeah, I'm doing shout outs. Maybe they'll, progressive leasing is one of those wonderful ways you can pay for something without taking out one of them cash loans that overcharge you. Progressive leasing takes people with bad credit. Like Rent-A-Center. It's a good place. Not Rent-A-Center. It's the other one. But anyway, buy now, pay later, but you can pay it off early and save a whole bunch of money on all of that interest if you pay it off in 6 months, 3 months versus a year. And it's a wonderful thing. And then it boosts your credit. So anyway, I had got my good chair and my sectional sofa. It was nice. That Spirit used to live on. Spirit is my cat, who I still know where she is. She ran away from home after we got evicted in February 21st, 2024. But we're not talking about that. But I can digress because I'm Taronda, and this is how videos go if you follow me. Because that's what happened. As soon as I thought about that chair, I thought about the sofa and love seat that went along with it. And I thought about the cat that I had that used to sleep on it, which, by the way, was my nephew's cat. But anyway, when I got that cat from storage after having lived in the shelter for 9 months where they were doing drugs so bad I had to start wearing Depends because I couldn't pee and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, which is a whole nother story. And we're going to talk about that shit. And I can say shit because Christian Smith said I can. That's Christian with a K. I watch his TFC. I'm a member. Hey, hey, NFL, if you're watching, hey, love you. NFL is also she gonna be my sister in my head because we are Jill Scott lookalikes. You know, I realized I first heard of Jill Scott because people were walking up to me in the mall. And I forget what store I used to go in. I used to go to the mall when I lived in Detroit. No, it wasn't Detroit. I lived in Detroit, but I lived outside of Detroit in Canton, which is a suburb of Detroit area, Metro Detroit. I lived in Metro Detroit in Canton, and there was a mall. I think it was Montgomery Wards. I used to park by Montgomery Wards and go in through there to go to get my MAC makeup. To the MAC counter, which, you know how the MAC counters be out there in the middle of the mall or whatever, or in the department stores. That's what it was. It may have been Macy's. But anyway, I was going to get my foundation, you know, because I wasn't just mall shopping. I'm saying all that because life's been a struggle financially, and I wasn't shopping while I was in Michigan. But I was in the mall just looking at stuff. You know, you stop shopping and looking at stuff, and people kept coming up to me asking me, was I Jill Scott? This was back when I had the afro before I locked. And we're talking 2003-ish, 4-ish, because I first locked in 2004. So it may have been maybe 2002 that people started walking up to me. I have to go back and look and see when Jill first had her album out. At the time, I was a minister at the big church, the big Grammy Award winner, Living Legends Church. And I was a minister, and it was not of God to be listening to no secular music. So I went through that in stages throughout my life. I'm gonna say that much too, and talk about that too when we talk about church being a cult. I now refer to it as a cult. And I heard another young lady on Instagram the other day saying that her therapist told her not to refer to the church. She was a PK, church that she grew up in, as a church, but as a cult. And when she said that, that thing hit in my spirit because it reminded me of my journey with religion altogether, and how when God called me in April of 2015, I heard the Spirit of God speak to me audibly. I woke up. And if you're a person that flows in the Spirit and has spiritual gifts and knows about the Spirit, you have times when you know when the Spirit is speaking to you. I'm an intercessor. I've been an intercessor since, let's just say I got filled with a saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost in Church of God in Christ, in attending World Changers, which is not Church of God in Christ, but see how stuff goes in. But you know what? I'm just going to tell the story because you're going to fall in love with me for these stories I got. Let's go back. I grew up Missionary Baptist, Shreveport, Louisiana, at Midway Baptist Church number 2. That is where people exhibited what we would know of today as spirit possession. It's exactly what they do in voodoo circles. Do your research. I didn't say voodoo, which is a made-up Hollywood stuff that they came up with. VODOO. That's made up. That's commercial. You got voodoo chicken places right here in New Orleans today as I speak, where they serving chicken. But voodoo, VODOUN, is an actual religion. It falls under Judaism, Islam, Christianity, voodoo fits in those categories. I learned about it recently at Georgia State University when I went back after 30 years of sitting out from Morris Brown College that I started in 1989, August of 1989. I graduated high school in May of 1989 in Shreveport, Louisiana. I went to Morris Brown College in August of 1989. At Morris Brown College, I became the president of the gospel choir because that's Taronda, classic Taronda stuff. She was always the president and the section leader of stuff. You know, I'm just saying, if you're a leader and it's following you. So I was the president of the gospel choir at Morris Brown College in Atlanta. James Pullins was, and there's a reason why I'm telling his name. Thank you, God. Glory to God. I felt the anointing. I'm almost trying not to speak in tongues. See, speaking in tongues is something that you often do a lot like you would do a nervous laugh or a nervous giggle, so to speak. Not that you're nervous. A nervous laugh doesn't necessarily mean that you're nervous. It just means you made a true statement and you giggled a little bit after you made it. Doesn't mean the statement wasn't true. It just means that a thought came across your mind when you said it, so you giggled. But in real life, we consider that a nervous giggle, but it doesn't mean that you were nervous, and it doesn't mean that you didn't just tell the truth. So when I said James Pullins, I think his name is with an S. He was he the minister of music at the time? He later became the minister of music. But at the time I met him in August of 1989, he was a graduate of Morris Brown College. He had come back to work the gospel choir. So he was working as a musician and teaching us. And there's lots of us that are friends to this day from attending Morris Brown College, which is a part of Atlanta University Center, which is a conglomerate of schools. I know some founded by the Rockefellers or the rich white people: Morehouse, Spelman, Clark Atlanta University, and Morris Brown College is the one that I attended. And there's also a seminary there, not a Bible college, but a seminary where people go to get their license in. I swear I hear a cat outside my door. Now I gotta go see, because it reminds me of my nephew, the man of God, telling me to do a spell to get spirit back, my cat who disappeared. And it sounds like there's a cat outside my door, meowing. I haven't had spirit as my cat since the eviction, February 21st of 2024. I don't see anything, but I hear it, and that is so weird. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it open because I sit with the door open because this is a shotgun. And with I guess I'll leave the light on since I'm filming. Shotgun houses go straight through. And so that's my back door that you can see right back there. And all the stuff that you see is the stuff that was a part of my eviction. So, in between 2000, see, I done left the store. We was twisting hair and everything. We done went on to something else. But in between 2000, I'm gonna say 2004, when I left Detroit, Metro Detroit. Between 2004 and 2024, I struggled with homelessness. Oh yes, baby. And in between struggling to afford rent on my own, because rent is high. I'm going back to that man that used to make them videos. Rent is too damn high. It started before Michigan. But for me, I'm one of those people that got pushed out of the house without a clue. Didn't know about savings account. Didn't know how to budget my money. When I was growing up, all I ever heard my mama say was, we ain't got a piece of bread in this house. And it would be plenty of food in there to make something. It just wasn't what she wanted or what she wanted to make, because she could really cook. We down to our last loaf of bread. We down to our last roll of toilet tissue. I ain't got no money. I don't get paid till next Friday, and I ain't got a penny in my pocket. I'm not. And bless her heart, and this is not to shine a bad light on my mother, but this is videos of me working through my healing. And as Maya Angelou said, it's time for the memoir. I'm a memoirist. So as a memoirist, I talk about where my mind was when I graduated. All throughout my adult life, not my adult life, my teenage life. And I would even go back to grade school. I had thoughts of suicide. Often. It was the norm. Thinking suicidal thoughts and parasital thoughts, which is parasital is when you kill your parents. That was my norm. I started preaching when I was 12. They were putting me on programs to narrate musicals. I was the person that could grab the mic and have everybody on their feet. And in the church world, that's a big deal. And so I was treated as such. And people would put me on their program to come and speak at their church. And when I came to their church, I was literally pulling a text. Pulling a text in the church world means you go to the Bible. King James Bible is what we grew up on in the church. And you're taught the Bible, God's holy word. And you're made to say allegiance to it. So you're taught to pledge to the Bible when you're in Vacation Bible School. I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. A lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. His word will I hide in my heart, that I might not sin against God. I did a documentary, and I start the documentary off talking in a child's voice, that I might not sin against God. And it's dealing with how the Pentecostal church looks at homosexuality. And I did that video starting off with that pledge because as far back as I can remember, I was baptized at 7. Religion and religious conviction has been a part of my psyche. And it's been taught, and that stuff gets wound up in your mind. So by the time you're 40 or 20, you've been taught how to be and what's right and what's wrong. So if you want to do or follow or be friends with anybody outside of that, that means you're in sin now. You can't talk to people who are gay. You can't let gay people adopt children. And you can't let this and that. And you can't even say anything about being gay, because that's going to mean you're gay. And you can't be saved and gay. And you can't have a pastor married to a man. You can't have a woman married to a woman. That ain't God. This ain't God. And I grew up with, what's God? Is that God? That ain't God. I grew up with that mentality from as far back as I can remember. So when I get in film school at Georgia State, and I'm about to do some research, I had a group project, and I had to do research on something. Of course, I want to do religious themes and also help myself as I journey through why God in April of 2015 started speaking to me and saying, I'm calling you out of the institution of the church. I didn't get it. And all I know is, if you saying God called you out of the institution of the church, then that means you're saying God himself is telling you to forsake the assembling of the saints. That is a scripture. The scripture says, in the King James Bible says, forsake not the assembling together. Something like that. I can't quote it, but look it up. Just put in the word forsake. You can Google it now and find the whole scripture. But the way that we say it in the church world, the adaptive term is forsake not the assembly of the saints. Now, I don't know if it's assembling or assembly, because, you know, in the black language, we get shit all misconstrued because we just be talking. But the scripture is coming from the scripture of forsake not the assembling together of yourselves as some do. I think it's something Paul was saying to the church. So it's definitely going to be in the New Testament. But that's the scripture that came to mind when I woke up and I heard the Spirit say, I'm calling you out of the church. The type of voice that I heard was audible. And no, I'm not schizophrenic. I'm not hearing voices. I don't have multiple personalities. I'm not deranged. It's how the spirit speaks to, and I'm going to include other people, you or me or us. It's a subtle voice, as if somebody's sitting right there next to you and they just say, they're not yelling, they're not screaming. It's just, I'm calling you out of the church. Like we're picking up from a conversation I didn't know we were having. That's what happened in April of 2015. So I guess I'm here telling the story of how it happened. April 2015, I start hearing something that didn't make sense to me, and it definitely didn't make sense according to my religious Black Pentecostal type church teachings, doctrinal teachings. It was out of order. Out of order is another term that we use in the church, which means you're saying something that would be against the Bible. It would be classified under the sin category if you were putting all the religion in a See, over the years, once I started taping, I noticed that the little white stuff gather around your mouth. And that means your lips are chapped, because I've always dealt with chapped lips. And I later found out that chapped lips aren't chapped lips. Chapped lips are dehydration. So you should drink water and plenty of it to stay hydrated. But when you're talking for over an hour, making your videos, your voice gonna get dry. And so the white stuff starts to build up. So that's what that was. So I'm going to put on some Carmex and I'm going to do all that while we're talking, but I'm going to explain what I'm doing. There you go. And this is ice water. I also just watched a video. Steve Harvey's daughter. Oops, geez, I just mistakenly poured water on myself. And it's ice cold. Steve Harvey's daughter, one of the twins, he has the identical twin daughters, but one of them has a wonderful show. I think it's called Vault. Maybe I can get on Vault by mentioning her. Put me on the show, girl. I don't know her name. I forgot her name, but the identical twins. She has a show where she does wonderful interviews, and she had this Asian lady on there. I think the lady was Chinese, but she lives in America or has lived in America. But the Chinese lady's father is a healer. He's a well-known healer that has always wanted her as a healer because, whatever you do passes down through the generations. And so healing passed down to her, but instead she went to do accounting because that's where some steady money was. And you don't have to deal with all the stuff you deal with when you're working like that. But she finally started doing healing recently. And so she's a healer on the level of what Yahriel does. Yahriel is a black guy from America that is he's like the latest Dr. Sebi, basically. And he has a spot in St. Louis, Missouri that he's open now where people come from far and near like they used to go to Dr. Sebi. Who is Dr. Sebi? Dr. Sebi is the guy that left eye. You see how all of this stuff bleed together? You see, but that's why you don't fast forward when I'm talking. Don't fast forward because you'd have missed all of this. Left Eye, the rapper portion of TLC, the girl group that used to be like, I don't know what the latest is, but they were like, they're Grammy Award winners. Let's just put it that way. TLC, and by the way, T-Boz, Tion, is one of Yahriel's Hands of Fire clients. Yahriel is Toronto. I have worked on Tion T-Boz well over 5 times when she would come to Atlanta. That's the massage therapist that you're talking to. Now, I usually don't name drop like that, but I'm going to drop it. Technically, I haven't worked on T-Boz since they did the Super Bowl pre-show engagements. They came through Atlanta, and I used to take my table to the hotel. How did I meet T-Boz? Through another Grammy Award winner that Terry Lewis of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis introduced me to. Yeah, I'm name dropping. Because, see, when you done spent 9 months, and when you're telling stories like you was 9 months at the Low Barrier Shelter in downtown New Orleans, it's embarrassing. And now you up in here living in the doggone shotgun one-bedroom appointment with your shit apartment with your shit everywhere. But let me tell you who I really am. See them white folks down there to the good spa I was working at the W fired me because one of those managers at the downtown W got with another new manager at the downtown W. They got together and they was lying. Now, the original manager, which is a story I stopped telling, I'm coming back to all of it. I don't forget nothing. And if you read my books, you'll notice that this is how I write too. I talk like this and I write like this, but I come back to my stories. It's just harder to do without editing this first. But even in an unedited version, I'm coming back to it. But the white man, and I said white because he was white. It was a white, openly gay man with a gay love around to his house, who long before he did what he did, he told me that he was firing me because he wanted me to go and write books. He told me, make sure you give me a ticket to one of your shows. This was after I graduated May 2018 at Georgia State. He wanted tickets to my shows. By September, after getting fired, I had 2 strokes. And if tears fall, I'm going to let them fall because I got my lap scarf. I'm going to cry if I need to. This manager had at one time, when I first started working there, loaned me rent money and let me pay him back whenever I got my first check. I think he may have even let me pay him back in portions. And I wasn't the only one. He had loaned money to several of us. He just was I had some good bosses at the W. Midtown, downtown. They were sister spas. I used to work in between 3 different spas. Midtown, downtown, and the St. Regis, which was at, I forgot the name of that spa. But the spa that was at the St. Regis, which was a sister spa. These were all Starwood properties, which are now all Marriott properties, because the Marriott done bought out the Four Seasons and some of everybody. Marriott owns everything. But at that time, they were all sister spas, and I worked as an employee as the fill-in massage therapist. So if you had car trouble, car wreck, car sickness, you called Taronda, which I go by Yahriel. You call Yahriel, you text me, and I show up at the drop of a hat and take over your shift. So therefore, people who have planned massages and massage schedules that are booked from 9 to 9, as in you got customers on schedule from 9 to 9, there's nowhere to move anybody around. We don't have room for anybody to be late on their massages or any of that. You called in to Rhonda, and I would go to either of those 3 locations, Midtown, Downtown, or Buckhead, across from the Whole Foods. I was the fill-in person. So I thought everybody was cool with me because all the managers knew if something come up, I can call Taronda. She gonna answer her phone or call right back or text right back. And she's gonna show up. She's gonna show up. If I was going to the St. Regis, I was gonna throw on my eyelashes. But she's gonna show up in her nice uniform, looking good, sounding good, talking good, and doing good. However, in comes the crazy white girls. And to this day, it's been a mystery. It was such a mystery with what happened with this spa manager until I had a nervous breakdown behind it. I spent 11 months sleeping in my car when I moved to New Orleans. Sleeping in my car. Why was I in New Orleans sleeping in my car? I was sleeping in my car at the airport in Dallas. Why was I in Dallas sleeping in my car? Because I was sleeping in my car in Shreveport because the show I moved to town to do was canceled. Why? Because the church folks around the Morning Star said they didn't know who I was. Even though when Hunt was living, I was a part of that church, that Baptist church. But when I came back, it was a bunch of AKAs there, and Theron was the pastor who also had DUIs and all kind of stuff. Theron owed me a favor because I laid hands on Theron back in 1990 and cast devils out of Theron. There were lots of witnesses there, so this ain't no lie. And Theron was telling people. I didn't know Theron was telling people this because I wouldn't be telling people if I cast devils out of you. That's something you want to share. That's your testimony. But he had been telling people, which was one of my friends who was an organist at the church when Theron moved up from wherever he was in Louisiana. I think it was Monroe, Lafayette, wherever he was from. He moved to Shreveport and started pastoring Morning Star after Hunt died. Before then, he was pastoring another church. But even when he was pastoring that church, he used to tell people that there's this girl from Shreveport named Taronda. She cast the devils out of all of us. She cast the devil out of me. They were rolling in the floor, growling like animals, some of them. And I was laying hands and casting out demons. We were at Southern University, Baton Rouge's campus. In the summertime, we would go to a gathering called the Baptist Youth Encampment. It was an indoors camp that we went to every year for years. This thing goes back to the 80s. We're talking early 80s. You know, I got called to preach after I came back from a youth encampment in the 80s. I was 12. I remember standing in the floor at 4047 in front of the front door. And I was doing a loud talker, getting everybody's attention. It was my Aunt Joyce, my Aunt Boo. Everybody was at home, my grandma. So it must have been I don't know what day it was, but I just remember I was making an announcement about what all I learned at camp. And camp was a Christian youth encampment. It's a Baptist youth encampment. So you go to camp for a year and you serve the Lord. So you're like sin free for a whole year. So you're doing right. You're not listening to any secular music. You're not doing the secular dances. You're in there. You got a skirt on because we couldn't wear pants that whole week. We could not wear pants in the Baptist church. And we would sleep in the dorms at Southern University, Baton Rouge campus. So I lived in those dorms with the stinky water. When you run water in Baton Rouge, it smells like it has, neem oil. Neem oil smells like rotten eggs. And the water in Baton Rouge smells like rotten eggs. The water in certain places in Slidell smells like rotten eggs. So when I literally moved to Slidell and lived in my car in New Orleans for 10 months, moved into my apartment in August of 2020 of, it was in the middle of COVID. Moved into my apartment, turned on the water, and it smelled like rotten eggs like the water used to in Baton Rouge. What I later found out was that everybody in Slidell water don't smell like rotten eggs, just people of a certain poverty level. People on a certain poverty level got water that stank. But the rich white people in the gated communities, because I took my massage table to a very rich woman's house. I'm talking the kind of house when you pull in the gate, when you drive in the gate, the front door is like a quarter of a mile away from the gate. That kind of rich. Her water didn't smell funny because, of course, I wash my hands up to my elbows. I'm reviewing all of this because if you watch the whole thing, then you'll know I've talked about all this in this one video that's about 2 hours long. But when I would go in her bathroom to wash my, and by the way, she had her own table, so I didn't have to take my table to her house because she had her own massage table. She was that kind of rich. She used to do ride horses and travel and all of that stuff. So she had enough room out there for her horses to roam and all of that. Yeah, right in Slidell. Her water didn't smell like my Slidell did over on Pontchartrain where the Mardi Gras parades used to come. But anyway, water used to smell like rotten eggs. What was I talking about? See, that's how this happens. So I don't even think I want to call myself ADHD. I'm just going to call myself smart. That's what I am. I'm a memoirist. Thank you, Maya Angelou. Shout out to Wikipedia for calling Maya Angelou a memoirist. I'm a memoirist. This is a memoir video, MEMOIRIST. For those of you who are Googling it, I am a memoirist. Memoir is different from a biography because it's telling the lessons and the explanations and the details behind the events that happen. So my mother and my family and the people who raised me have developed a certain way of thinking that has everything to do with why I've just spent the last 9 months at the Low Barrier Shelter in New Orleans. Why do I have a OneDrive full? OneDrive is a drive that can hold all of your written information for those over 40 that may be watching this computer talk. OneDrive is Microsoft. It's a Microsoft app that can keep all of the stuff that you write, instead of like there's fires going on in California right now. So if a writer's house got hit by a fire, they would have lost all their stuff if they weren't keeping it on a OneDrive. OneDrive is not the disk that you put into the computer to keep, because now when they make computers, they don't even make a computer with a flash disk on the side of it. You got to buy a whole nother piece of equipment to use flash disk altogether. But if you got OneDrive, you can save it out in the cloud. The cloud is cyberspace. It's the place where people are hacking into stuff and stealing out your bank account and whatnot. And at this point, you just do what you do because you can't fight this stuff, you know. But anyway, I got my stuff out there, and so I don't have to worry about it being lost. Of course, I still make copies of everything. I got a copy of everything, and I have stuff I've emailed to people. So, I've emailed scripts and manuscripts, and so, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. Go back and email everything to myself at yahrielwrites@aol.com. That's what I'm going to do. And AOL.com dates me, because who else is using AOL.com except for women of a particular age that are over 53 that know about having to wear Depends. So I had to start wearing Depends while I was at the Low Barrier Shelter, because they were living like it was New Jack City. Meaning, if you are menopausal, you're going to have to pee around 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and again at 3, and again at 4:28 a.m. or p.m. Yeah, a.m. And when I would go in the bathroom to pee, the drug dealers were running the bathroom like a street corner. It was New Jack City up in that bitch. For real, for real. They literally were doing drugs. The bathroom was one that could fit in, like a wheelchair could get in there, and it had a sink. Some of them may even have a shower, but there was at least a sink and a toilet and just room to move around in a wheelchair. Inside of that big bathroom, they had about 8 of them, and there's like over 300 people living at the shelter. I was one of those 300 in the all-ladies room, which was 28 of us in the ladies' room. They used to call it the fishbowl because all around the room were glass windows, and you can look in there and see who was living in the fishbowl. You could also look in there and see us in the fishbowl changing clothes, putting on bras, taking off bras, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's a whole nother situation behind the mentality of what goes on when you live in a shelter, because you got evicted because you went to the hospital because you was having a breakdown. You went to the hospital because you was sleeping in the U-Haul. You was sleeping in the U-Haul because you got evicted. You got evicted because the rent went up, and it was way more than what you make, and you were supposed to be moving into another income-based property that only charged $700 instead of $1,400 for rent. They charging $700, and when it was time for you to move in and you got your rent U-Haul rented, the girl calls you back and says, "Oh, I saw something on your credit. I can't let you know." Yeah, that's the story behind the eviction. So it wasn't even supposed to be an eviction. It was a "I'm moving over here" that turned into an eviction, because I didn't get to move over there because she saw something on my credit. She saw something on my credit because that was why I had been sleeping in the car for the last 10 months. Because before then, right as I was getting fired from my job for being accused of sexually harassing some girls that was massage therapists, that was jealous that I was as good as I was, there was another girl. See how these stories go? And I got to find her name, because that bitch, I'm sure going to post her name, because it happened. And I got the record proof of it. I rented a spot in Midtown right next to that U-Haul off of 14th Street. 14th Street was on the other end of where I was working in Midtown W Spa. I was trying to have my own place while I was in school at Georgia State working on my film degree, so that I can put all this shit I'm talking about in writing so y'all can read this shit, because this don't happen in everybody's life. But yeah, it was Midtown and it was a rental space. So in Atlanta, and I'm sure in other cities too, around that time in 2000, in the late 2000s, not in the late, well, around 2010 and up, it had become a popular thing to have spaces that you could come in and out of 24 hours a day as long as you got your personal key. And those are places where spa technicians like hairstylists, barbers, nail techs, tanning spas, estheticians, massage therapists, um, just any people that were tailors. You know, I've seen tailors rent them. You could rent out a spot that had 24-hour access, 24-hour lighting. Lights go out until you walk by, then they turn back on. So now we got light in the whole building that you're here. And you could do famous people hair like Mariah Carey or somebody else if they're in town for a concert and they're just getting off the stage. Well, this is where we can come and do their massage, and then they can go on and leave in their limo or with their private driver and go back to their home. So that's why you have spots like this. They have them all over Atlanta. They're spa suites. And so I went and I rented a spa. I wasn't even going to rent a spa because I was at Georgia State working on my film degree. And at Georgia State, they don't give the degrees away. You got to work, 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 work. So I really didn't have time to run my own business and work at the spa. But anyway, because people kept telling me to do it, I went there because somebody invited me. One of the estheticians that was renting a spot and doing very well there invited me to come to an event that they were having. And they had a lot of rich and a lot of wealthy people there. It was an event and they just wanted me to come and do a chair massage. So they paid me like $50 an hour to come through there and be the chair massage person. At that said event, I met little reality stars from the little shows around Atlanta, here and there, and other people and the mothers, relatives of famous people that are on these little reality shows and that are singers around Atlanta. It was a crowd. It was a crowd. And in that crowd, the girl that ran the place, a young black woman, seemed really nice. Cute girl, but that particular night she was wearing cleavage down to her belly button. Yes, the dress that she had on did not have a bra, and her little A-cup breasts were exposed all the way down to her belly button. I'm telling this part for a reason. I ignored it because I don't judge, because like I said earlier, I'm a massage therapist. I know how to keep a straight face, but I'm also clocking you as well. I'm clocking the fact that you walked out of the house and you own this building and you're presenting yourself with your belly button down to your navel. Tells me something about you. But I put it in the back file in my OneDrive that's located right here in my head. I like the way I put that together. That girl, and look, it must be the Holy Ghost. I can't remember her name right now. That girl that owned the shop begged me to come and rent out a space at her shop in Midtown. Right next to the U-Haul, right on 14th Street, right down the street from where I was already working at the W, where I could easily meet wealthy clientele that would want to see me privately. So I can say my shop is right down the street on 14th. Meet me there at 11 or whenever and just do my work from there, because that's how you start getting your own business. See, this is all of the stuff. I'm saying all of this because in my 20 plus years of going on 20 years of doing massage therapy, I've met a lot of people. And whenever I meet the client that is so impressed and well-traveled, when I say well-traveled, I mean people that constantly travel out of the country and that go and get massages in all these other countries and places and exotic places. And they always tell me that I'm the best, if not the best, one of the best massages that they've ever had. And they're so impressed with my work and my touch, which is nothing but the anointing of God and all the stuff that I've been through, like 9 months of living at the low barrier shelter and peeing on myself because I can't get in the bathroom because they in there shooting up doing drugs. There's a reason why I'm telling all of this together. I'm not just talking out of my head, but they tell me you should start your own business. You should be in business for yourself. Why are you working here? Why are you in here? And I'm thinking to myself, the W Hotel, the St. Regis got all of these clients. They got the rich clients. They come to see me. I ain't got to advertise. I ain't got to buy no products. All I do is walk up in here and do what I do and take the tip money and leave. But in all actuality, I should be working for myself because Mariah Carey looked at me and said, "You're a healer, aren't you? You're a healer." That's what Mariah Carey said to me. Even though I signed a contract that I wouldn't tell y'all, she said that. I don't think she'd sue me behind it because she's good people. She real good people. But Mariah Carey even told me that I should be out here having my own spa. I'd met Terry Lewis. I'd met T-Boz. I'd met, all kinds of Grammy winners. Verdine White from Earth, Wind, and Fire, living legend. I'd worked on all of them. And they all said, you should have your own place. So when I went to this little Atlanta event at this girl's a little studio suite thing, and I'm seeing all of these people around me, and she's begging me. Ain't never been on my table. But just from what she see and how she sees people interacting with me and just looking at me, she know I'm the shit. She begging me to come and rent a room from her. And she would help me get started. It was her and it was another girl that had been on the chair that night. And she was having a fit. She was another young black girl. And this girl in particular, she didn't look like it. She was a heavy-set black girl with wild nappy hair like the rest of, just regular. She was young, much younger than me though. But she had started her own business that was one of those businesses that you got to pay thousands of dollars to get somebody. It was kind of like, like she worked sewers. Like one of those, if you call somebody to clean your gutters and stuff like that, she had started, a young black girl had started a business doing that. And it was a dominated field where there was older white men working it. And she was a young black girl. And while I was doing chair massage, that was one of the community conversations that people around the chair that everybody was having. Typical situation when you hanging around Toronto while she's doing chair massage. People around the area are talking and we're sharing health experiences, health knowledge, massage knowledge. I'm bringing the people in, and so we're talking about something, and you're seeing my personality. So they saw all of this, and this girl begged me to come and work for her because I had found out that this girl was doing the trench work, and she had some big contracts with major places within the city of Atlanta. I know she rich now because this was, like I said, this was like 2017 when that happened, 16, 17-ish. So I'm sure she rich now. She's still in business. But she had taken some money that she had gotten, like maybe like a daddy had died or something. She had came into just a little bit of money and she launched her business, and it ended up popping off. Number one, because it's hard to find people in that field that can show up and do what she does. And the conversation was about how she has to really work hard to get different projects and stuff because it's such a dog-eat-dog industry. And she also brought to my attention that stuff that if you're old enough to remember Job Corps still exists, but not like it used to exist. I remember Job Corps used to be something you could go to when you got to high school. So like them last years when you pretty much gotten enough credits to graduate or whatever, you could go to Job Corps. You go to school half the day and then you would catch the bus to Job Corps and y'all would go over there and y'all would take up stuff like HVAC. That's vacuum. That means you would learn, not vacuum, air conditioning. You would learn how to service people's air conditioning. Everybody got an air conditioner in their house, whether it's hanging out the window or whether it's central. Everybody's going to need you. They would also have shop where you learn how to fix cars and fix engines. All of that was at Job Corps. You went to Job Corps to learn stuff that they didn't teach you in school, but you didn't have to go to no 4-year college to get your license and to learn things. You could go get your EMT training, all kind of stuff, which is what a lot of these kids could do now. But the powers that be have changed things to where You set up and think you got to go get this 4-year degree. So now you got people going to school, getting up these thousands of dollars of loans. Morris Brown itself was $66,000 of my student loans. Georgia State was another 20-something thousand. So I got over 100,000, or had over, until the LeMan got in office and wiped our student loans out. But I had over $100,000 of student loans when I first started living in my car, like a lot of people. You can't afford to. And even since I've been doing massage, I've had doctors, I've had anesthesiologists, I remember in particular, who have come across my table complaining that they can't afford, because we always suggest that people get massage done at least once a month. They could not afford to get a massage once a month, even though they were a doctor anesthesiologist, because they didn't make enough money to spend that kind of money on self-care, even though they had an education. They were talking about, because of the changes in Medicare, Medicaid, and all kinds of insurances, you don't make as much money as you used to make doing what used to bring you a lot of money. Being an anesthesiologist used to be the thing, a radiologist, all this other kind of stuff. Nowadays, it just can get you shelter over your head. But if you got student loans that you're trying to pay back, you could very easily be sleeping in your car or in the U-Haul after you get evicted, because that was what I did in 2024. Yeah. I had 3 strokes. 2 I had in September of 2018 after my white gay boss fired me, because he says, you have your film degree now. I graduated May 2018. He said, you have your film degree. You should use your degree and go and do what you went back to school for. Just so happened, said spa director wanted to be a radio DJ back in the day, and I think he also writes too, but he was looking at me thinking of things he wanted to do with his life. So all that time, a lot of them didn't know I was sleeping in my car while I was going to Georgia State, finishing up my degree, because I knew I had the kind of books in me that could write like Stephen King. As a matter of fact, one of my film instructors for writing for TV, he was so jealous of what I was turning in. Peaceful Tree, which I'm writing now. Shameless plug here. I started rewriting Peaceful Tree while I was at Georgia State working on my degree. I took a stage play that I started writing in 1999, tried to put up in 2004, failed, and quit writing. And I took that play, and I heard the Spirit say in 2012, just as he said in 2015, I'm calling you out of the church. In 2012, the Spirit spoke to me. He said, it's time to rewrite Peaceful Tree. Well, at the time, it was called If You Only Knew. He said, it's time to rewrite If You Only Knew. And I started turning the stage play that I didn't successfully put up. In my mind, in my opinion, it wasn't successful. It was very successful. I put it up in 2004. Put it down because I was too narcissistic in my thinking. And I was an adult child of narcissistic parents. Read Trapped in the Mirror. Trapped in the Mirror is a book by Elan, E-L-A-N. What is the last name? It slips me. But if you just Google Trapped in the Mirror, E-L-A-N or E-L-O-N, Ellen. But anyway, that's the book that my therapist, Reese Price, We Speak Your Name, my Tulsa therapist, who was seeing me after my mom jumped on me Christmas of 1998. If you notice the patterns, come on, Tracy Richardson, my childhood BFF, we have these photogenic memories. We can remember names and numbers. Tracy Richardson can still tell you my childhood phone number and my grandmama's phone number, which is still the same. My grandmother's phone number is still the same. Tracy Richardson knows it because her memory is like that. We were best friends. We grew up together. Her dad was a school teacher. He became a principal. But we went to camp together. I went to my first camp with her where we actually slept in a camping unit because her dad was over the boys club, uh, which is kind of like the Boy Scout, but it was the boys club in Shreveport. But anyway, I remember dates like Tracy remembers numbers and stuff, but I remember dates according to what happened. And I can shoot back to you October of what year when such and such and such happened. So if you've noticed, if you go back and watch this video that I've been making for 2 hours, I've been dropping dates and I've been dropping months and dates and times to remember stuff that I remember. I'm coming back to James Pullen, by the way. I haven't forgotten, and I'm not just skipping around, but you don't want to fast forward because you may miss something. But 4047, I'm just going to jump back to that because I know I just went from out of whatever. 4047 is the number address of the street that I grew up on. 4047 will be a memoir that I will do because I'm a memoirist. Because today is April 4th, 2025, but it also commemorates April 4th, 1928, which is Maya Angelou's birthday. I can remember that because I was dressed in this candle that says Mama Maya or Maya Angelou in it, and April 4th, 1928. You can't see it, but this is what you do when you're setting up a candle on your altar or when you're just doing candles altogether. You dress your candle by writing the name of an ancestor or someone who has crossed over to the other side. Unless you're doing work and you may be doing work on a client who has Alzheimer's and they're talking out of their head, so it's time for them to go and they're already seeing old loved ones in the spirit, but y'all think they talking crazy, but they really are just seeing people. I also did work for the first time this year for a friend of mine whose mother was crossing over, and he called me about 3 o'clock in the morning while his mother was in the background talking crazy because she'd never acted like that with Alzheimer's, and let's just say she hasn't talked like that since I made the candle and put her birthday in it. So in that particular spell, if you will, you can call it, but I'm gonna call it work, WERK, work. In that candle, I put a particular date that was 2025 so that she can go ahead and cross over. God uses me to cross people, which is a whole nother video because there's a lot of medium videos out there. So I'm that medium and I'm proud of it now. Thank you, Christian Smith. Got a shout out one more time to the TFC crew because until he came and started making his videos and cussing and saying whatever he had to say, he's also a learned seminarian, not Bible college, seminary, theologian, so to speak. He's gone to college and studied religion. So he knows what he's talking about. So you can cuss and then you can curse. Cussing is shit damn motherfucker. Cursing is you ain't gonna sleep until you do right by me. God gonna stop you from doing this, that, and the other. You ain't gonna never have nothing until you bring God his tithes. You curse with a curse. That's cursing. So me saying, oh shit, laughing about something funny, and you telling me that I'm not gonna have anything because I'm cursed with tithes, that's a curse. The other one is cussing. And it's not offensive unless I'm looking at a child, a person, an older person, and being disrespectful or cussing in anger out of a certain bad negative emotion. That's when it's sinful. But if I'm just sitting here and I drop and break the candle and I say, oh shit, because I just paid $1.25 for it around the Dollar Tree because everything is not $1 at Dollar Tree. It's either $1 to $5 at Dollar Tree. And probably this time next year it's going to be $1 to $8. But you ain't hear from me. Just call me prophet when it happens. But Yeah, I've learned so much from Christian A. Smith, and not First Lady is what she likes to call herself, NFL. But I like to say that she's my sister in my head because we are both Jill Scott lookalikes. And when I got my eyebrows drawn in and my eyelashes on, she and I will favor. But I'll find that out when I go down to Day Fest, DEI Fest. That's going to be going on August 2025. I'm going to be in Atlanta for Dayfest. TFC is a congregation with a pastor that cusses in and out of the pulpit. He recently did an interview with Dr. Jamal Bryant over at the Good New Birth Church, who was the one that took over after Eddie Long, who was the one who was not, whose funeral wasn't attended by somebody who was recently swallowed up because they were around the Puff Daddy's party playing with the little boys too in the room. They call him a power bottom. I think that's what they called him, which was a new term for me. I'd never heard of that, but that's gay community lingo about who likes it on the top or who likes it on the bottom. So the power bottom is actually a masculine male who actually likes to be the bottom person. So typically they are a commander of sorts in real life, but in the sex life or the behind the life down low situation, down low as in I'm on the down low about being gay, as in a lot of the preachers and people that I knew in the black Pentecostal churches that I've attended are doing and have done and is still doing. That's what I found out they all were. That's why now, like the little young lady who's a little she's an artist. She's a very good artist. She made a video that I just read this week, just the other day. Um, she is she's a, what do they call them? She's a butch lesbian that dresses kind of boyish, but she's a pretty girl. She's a PK, meaning preacher's kid, meaning she's a child that grew up in black Pentecostal type churches as well. She has the same stories that I have. So while she was in therapy healing from all the many things that she's been through in the black Pentecostal church, her therapist told her, don't refer to it as a church, refer to it as a cult. So I found my way back. Woo! If you've been watching this whole video, I got lost, but now I'm found. I was lost telling this story about this young preacher's kid because she was referring to church, her former church life, as cult. People like Christian Smith and what's my guy? Heel, Buddha. Can't even think of your name right now. I'm sorry, boo boo. But just different and I'm just naming vloggers right now, podcast people that talk about religion and church and their bridge. Buddha used to be doing download stuff with Larry Hill. Not Larry Hill, Larry Reed. Why didn't I call him Larry Hill? With Larry Reed, who likes to expose people in the church. He's also a big time vlogger that I used to watch until one day he messed around and said that all the massage therapists were weird, freaky kind of people that do happy endings. I stopped watching Larry after that, and then I discovered Vincent Hill, who I remember from being on the Larry Reed show when I first started watching it years ago. Before I was inboxing with Larry on my Facebook page that got stolen, but I used to talk to Larry all the time, and even yeah, I used to talk to Larry. So I knew Larry, but we'd never met in person. But I was so turned off that he categorized me as one of as when he categorized massage therapists, he categorized me too as a happy ending person. And knowing that I'd had good white folks come down to the good spa that I was working at and lie on me and categorize me as such as well, that mess caused me to be living in my car and having nervous breakdown. So yes, I'm talking about the shit. Ooh, we putting this all together. This is a message. See, don't tell me I can't preach. Don't tell me I can't write. Because this is a message. I done built this thing up. And I use, see, that's what you do when you, see, if you're writing for somebody that does comedy, and you're writing comedy, you build all these stories up to come back to this main point. Go and watch comedy. Nate is my favorite right now. He does the, he come out and sit on the stage and he mess with the people in the audience. I forget what they call it. But that's his comedy act. It's not memorized comedy. It's all straight off the cuff. That's what Nate does. Nate Johnson. Love you, Nate. Yes, I'm flirting, Nate. I'm flirting. I'm video flirting. But yeah, Nate Johnson does that. He's a comedian. But watch a comedian and see how they tell their stories and how they add everything up. So if you are writing for a comic, that's how you would do it. You're adding stuff up and then you bring it back around to that. But anyway, see, I digressed. Because I really was teaching y'all how to twist a lock earlier. And since I done brought that back up again, I guess I could go back to it. But I never did find that what you call the thing I was looking for? The little thing you hold your hair up with. The well, I almost called it a hamstring. A hamstring is just a muscle in your thigh, which could have everything to do with sciatic problems. But I'm just all over the place. So if you are an aspiring massage therapist or a massage therapist and you're interested, ooh, here go a piece of cake. I just found a piece of cake down in my sofa, my new sofa from Big Lots, and I'm paying for on Progressive Leasing. But I'm gonna be making some videos now that we're on April 4th because I'm a memoirist, and a part of my memoir is the fact that other people call it ADD. I'm just calling it being smart. Thoughts be racing. They be moving like you working a remote control. Remote control. That's my aunt, my grandmama and my aunt George. You got to talk loud and you got to put some R's in it if you're going to say it proper. Ironically speaking. If you're speaking Ebonics and you're going to speak proper, to sound like you really know what you're doing, you put some R's and some S's on the back of stuff. And if your name ends in a A like Taronda, you're going to say Tarander. Yes, that's how my grandmother would talk to me when we were in the grocery store in public. If I was in the store cutting up and I was a kid, we were growing up. Tarander, grandmother's not getting that for you today. Come on over here. So if you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe. Definitely share the video. Definitely tell your person. You got to just listen to the whole thing when you jogging or when you on your road trip to St. Louis to go see YKYK, who is the new Dr. Sabi. Now that they done killed Dr. Sabi. But YKYK will find the cure for you. And yeah, I have talked about so many things. I'm just bringing back some of the stuff as I bring it up. But YKYK is the person that left eye was on her way, or that she, not YKYK. Dr. Sabi is the kind of work that YKYK does. I'm talking people being healed of cancer, stage 4 cancer, HIV, or AIDS rather, and all that kind of stuff. YKYK is reversing illnesses. YKYK reversed his own illness from just erectile dysfunction to imminence to all kind of stuff. He's healed it, and he does it naturally through diet and exercise, food, veganism, raw eating, just like Tab has done and become popular doing. Hey, Tab, I'm going to holler at her. By the way, I moved into the low barrier shelter April 22nd, 2024, after having been evicted, sleeping in the U-Haul for a few weeks. Then I couldn't stop crying, so I checked myself into the hospital for the nervous breakdown that I self-diagnosed. They never called it a nervous breakdown. I self-called it a nervous breakdown. But I acted a little crazier than I really was so that they would keep me, because the social worker had told me, if you go to the hospital, they're not going to keep you because you're too intelligent. So I went in there doing my good Shonda Rhimes acting. I mean, it's like Shonda hollered, cut, and I said, my cat. And I faked all of that out. And I told them I had faked it once they kept me in there, because they kept me for like 10 days. But it was good because I didn't have to worry about where I was going to sleep at. And the food was good too. And I met a lot. And I saw and I witnessed a lot of crazy for real. And just saw a whole nother end. God began to introduce me to what's going on in the city, not just the city of New Orleans. I think New Orleans is like a model for what actually is going on around the world. But this is where our world is today in in the area of mental illness. So here I was, somebody on a regular level had been dealing with homelessness, but nobody knew because I had a 2015 Dodge Journey that I could also drive Lyft and do Instacart in, and nobody knew. I knew how to keep the car clean and spray Lysol and, organized and keep. While I was homeless, I had a shelf. I had a storage bin in St. Rose, New Orleans. And the other, I had two storage bins, one up in Shreveport and one down here in New Orleans. As I relocated homeless, that's how I relocated homeless. I was sleeping in my 2015 Dodge Journey. And I had a storage. I was in Dallas because Shreveport would not do my play. Theron Jackson said he was going to do my Christmas show. My cousin Rosalind was too busy acting funny and being halfway jealous. Yeah, I said it, ho. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I said it. And this is a shout out to Mary because you always point up to the sky talking about what God did when God did something. But anyway, inside joke. But yeah, my cousin was acting real good and funny because she was close to Theron being a minister around the Morning Star. She was in the clique. And I'm talking about it because this fits in with when you're a minister in the Black Pentecostal church. Being a woman minister in church is a taboo. And usually it's not allowed in most churches. And even when they do allow it a lot of times, they still treat you funny, especially in Church of God in Christ. But there are women bishops and ministers and preachers. However, they may not be able to travel to another church of the same denomination and operate in that same calling or status because somebody has a problem with it. For example, whereas you're used to sitting in the pulpit, you may get invited to speak at a church or at a funeral where they don't allow women to sit in the pulpit. So to get up and honor your loved one that you're coming to the funeral to honor, because that's the only reason you would be there anyway, you got to come and stand down outside of the podium on the altar by the casket and talk, where all the rest of the people talking are off to the side. Yeah. And this happened to Carlton Pearson. We speak your name with the whole Carlton Pearson and the Yvette Flounder thing. Yvette Flounder was a backup singer for Walter Hawkins, who is, oh, by the way, check me out, Chocolate Chip Gumbo on SoundCloud. That's where you'll find all of my radio DJing of gospel and inspirational music from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and a little lane gap in between. While I was at Georgia State, 30 years later, finishing my bachelor's degree in film, I was a student DJ on the radio station WRAS Album 88 at Georgia State. Album 88 was started in 1971. I remember because I was born in 1971. But Album 88 has always been an underground station that's there to break in acts or get you on the radio. Songs like We Gonna Rock Them to Electric Avenue. I know I jump keys. And then we take it higher. Eddie, what's his name? Outkast. Them other people that did Outkast. What was them other folks? I am everyday people. With the bald-headed girl that does the dancing. But they were broke on Album 88, which was Georgia State's radio station, where they play music that you don't normally hear on the radio station. Because radio stations are bought out. Like people like Beyonce, they pay good money to make sure don't nobody play her music, and no music only. And it's a form of brainwashing. All of the music that you listen to has a different megahertz in it. Trap music itself is on a certain vibration that brainwashes your mind. Yeah, that's why you got everybody being fascinated with being a stripper. Not just the respect of the freedom of, using your body and the art that comes behind it, but there's also something very dark that goes on behind the music of hip hop and soul and R&B and all the other ones. It used to just be, we thought demonic meant Marilyn Manson now. But demonic is a lot of stuff. Come on, Angie Stone. with this car wreck that did nobody die in but you. But I digressed. So going back to it, Dr. Sabi. You see, I can't talk about Dr. Sabi without talking about Left Eye. Can't talk about Left Eye without talking about my client, T-Boss, which I haven't seen since 2015, so I haven't worked on her lately, but still, I had a cell phone number, so she was really my client. So, and I want to brag about that because I'm letting y'all know that I done literally lived in the shelter for 9 months. So I'm not just some disorganized person. And then my cousin Rosalind, the reason why I had to mention her, she's probably one of the people that talks about me like a dog to all of our class of 1989 from Morris Brown College. And it's just people when they run into each other in Walmart and they get to talking about whatever happened to Taronda. Oh, she on Facebook talking about she a healer and she this and that. But good, her ass been living in the car for a whole year. She came down here saying Theron was going to put her on, but she last minute with that. What she don't know is professionally, they put stage plays up in 2 weeks. So I was on target when I showed up with my script to do a Christmas production with all the music that I actually wrote and arranged. Yeah. She showed up to do that at Theron Church. But God said, you won't do it here. Thank you, Dr. Broderick. Shout out to Broderick McBride. Dr. McBride, my good friend and brother, Dr. Broderick McBride, we worked at the W Spa together. He was a concierge at the spa, ran front desk. So he knows firsthand how good I am as Sandra McBride's son, one of my clients. But anyway, Broderick said to me, Ron, it probably wasn't meant for him to do your play. God don't want everybody's name on your stuff. See, I'm circling back around. Ooh, if you've listened to this whole thing, I'm circling back around why I said Theron Jackson got DUIs. Theron is notoriously known around the city of Shreveport. I cast devils with a Z out of him back my freshman year at Morris Brown when I went to youth camp the summer of 1990. I did cast devils out of him and a few others. However, there are other devils that he let back in that's in him still now, because they the devils behind them DUIs and all these babies you got out here out of wedlock. Actually, you were in wedlock. You were married to your wife. So I guess maybe it ain't that big of a sin since you're still preaching and ain't never stopped, ain't never, as they said, repented. I guess it really ain't a bad thing if she okay with it because she's still with you. Now your children know. But Taronda, who slept in her car after she moved there and things didn't go down and y'all didn't bother to help me, as many people as Dara know, I could have gotten to somebody's apartment. I couldn't get in the apartment because the girl that begged me to come and work at her sweet spot back in Atlanta. See, y'all think I'm just talking. I'm not just talking. That girl insisted that I work on her breast. She got on my table. She signed a form stating that she would not flirt with me. She would not expose herself or engage in any activity that is, what did I call it? Harassing. Or there's another word, but again, the stroke part, the words are coming out of my mouth. But I have it. I got the paper. I got the paper that she signed. So if she want to sue me, please, you go and pay for the court costs so I can get your ass to get my credit removed. She got me on credit. I went and did an event. I did chair massage for $50 an hour under the guise of Yahriel's Hands of Fire, my mobile massage business company, which I've been doing at that time going on 20 years, well over 15. And I was also working full-time at the W. I went down and did a late night event that they had, and I provided massage. It was like a little dinner party, like a little party after thing, and, lots of who's who were there. And this girl saw me, and they begged me to come and set up a business and rent out a room for her. I didn't want to do it because paying rent I had to believe God to pay rent every month. But she talked me into it because I didn't have a set clientele. I had clientele whose houses I went to, but they obviously weren't promoting me because they want to make sure I had time to come to their house when they wanted me to. Because they literally would text me and I had the table in the car and I could easily stop what I'm doing, change. I have my scrubs, fresh scrubs in the car, throw on my eyelashes and walk up in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel and do massage on people like Mariah Carey. So that's how I was living. But I knew I needed a spot. I knew how much it cost, how much I didn't have because I was believing God to pay rent. Didn't have no good credit because my mama kept telling me how broke she was and we was. Didn't know what I was doing when I signed up for the credit card that my cousin Rosalind could have explained to me. But when I asked her what's the credit card, when they was giving away credit cards in the lobby of Morris Brown College, we get off the elevator. They down there with the table, recruiting people to sign up for credit cards, richest credit cards, $100 limit. I went and signed up for the credit card and I asked Rosalind, what's a credit card? What's that? And she was like, Rhonda, is you that ignorant? That was the first thing she said. And if you know her, you know I ain't lying because I'm repeating to you exactly what she said. She said, Rhonda, is you that ignorant? And I said, well, I know what a credit card is, but I mean, what you using it for? Because you can just pay for it. She was like, if you don't have the money, you use your credit card. And that's how you start building your credit. And I said, oh, I remember my dear used to go pay on her credit card, which she used to do in the lobby, in the basement of Sears. When Sears was at South Park Mall, we used to go to Sears like every Friday or every other Friday. She used to get paid every Friday, every week. We go in there, or we go that Saturday rather. And we go and pay her bill and then walk through Sears and get our good nylon bras. If you got big tits, then you know about them nylon bras that are the good kind that have your titties sitting up at attention like they about to shoot a bullet. Yep, that's what she used to buy her bras at Sears. I was a 44 triple D, so I learned to buy my bras at Sears. But I didn't know about credit cards. But I remember Rosalind saying, is you that ignorant? It wasn't explained to me. I ended up taking that card. The only income I had coming in was my work study job down there at Mr. Halsey, Glenn Halsey, we speak your name. He was the well-known choir director for Morris Brown College. Those of you who went there, if you know, you know. Shout out to all the choral choir members. People traveled the country following Glenn Hall and singing in a cappella, old Negro hymns and spiritual songs. And I used to play because I played then. I was Mr. Halsey's secretary when I first started Morris Brown in 1989, so I could still play piano back then. I can still play now. I just stopped playing around 1997-ish. I stopped playing because of flashbacks that I would have of my mother beating me and jumping on me when I play. Oh yeah, there's stories. There are reasons why she doesn't finish the books. There are reasons why I can write a stage play that would really equate the level of what Outkast put out when they did Idlewild. I literally have a show that I'm working on now that has a file out on OneDrive. It's called Cooperessa. I've had the actual short story. I had a short story published that comes from Cooperessa, something I wrote back at Georgia State. But it's a story that's going to be, it's going to rock like Idlewild. If you ever watched Idlewild, it's got some funky stuff. But I'm going to pull together a cast of your who's who, and I'm going to write the music to it. And I'll collaborate with other writers and producers and stuff. But I got stuff like that on my OneDrive. And you got people like Rosalind, who's sitting up talking about how I ain't shit and I ain't going to be nobody and all of that. Because I can feel it because I've not talked to Rosalind since I hit Louisiana October 16th, 2019. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart. Me and Rosalind entered freshman year at Morris Brown together. We graduated Fair Park High School together, May 20th, 21, 22, 1989. We are distant cousins. My grandfather and Rosalind's father are like second cousins, first cousins, something like that. So we are family. And we were already close, but just being family and going to her house, going to her mama house, like they normally do in good old Louisiana history. Who your peoples? And when they found out I was a Jenkins, her dad come to find out him and my granddad are cousins. So we were cousins. We were already friends. Thus, me being in her house, we were friends, good, tight friends. And she was in our crew. We were the smart kids crew. She graduated with a white robe. I had a black one because I used to cheat on the test. And it was Rosalind who got together with Daryl Littleberry and let it be known that I was cheating on some spelling tests. Not because I'm dumb and I can't spell, as you notice. If you go back through this whole video, I've been spelling throughout. But because I was at home getting jumped on. I wasn't lazy. They like to call it lazy. I wasn't too lazy to study for the study test that I think her name was Miss Williams used to give every Friday or so. I just didn't. I was the band section leader. I was also the founder and the director of the ROTC choir. So I also was playing for churches down in the country, places like Keachai and Kickapoo, Louisiana. Taronda was their musician and their director on second and fourth or first and third Sundays. Little churches down in the country. That's the kind of life I had going. And while I was practicing for those churches, if the music got too loud on the piano that my grandmama and my Aunt Joyce paid for and bought brand new when I started taking piano lessons with Terry Williams when I was 12. Yeah, the Terry Williams that used to take me around and show people that I could play well. Started playing for churches at 14. Well, my mama would get up out of her seat, her recliner to be exact, from watching Dallas and Fountain Crest, because Falcon Crest, they used to all come on the same night. JR, that was back in the JR days. Falcon Crest was the spinoff from Dallas. So all three of those shows would come on the same night, and the piano was on the other side of the wall where the TV was. So she couldn't hear the TV. The TV was on the other side of the piano, and her chair, the recliner, was up by the front window. That same window that years later, my Aunt Boo Baby, who also raised me, I was raised by a village of Jenkins. My Aunt B, because the Harrison side, I hardly even know. I don't know. And the ones that I've known, I don't care to know, and don't matter if I don't ever meet them again. Ooh, I said that with my chest. Ha! But anyway, that same window, my Aunt Boo Baby, in 2013, climbed through that window where the recliner was by. My granddaddy used to always sit in that recliner right by that window. My Aunt Boo Baby climbed in that window and found my mother dead on the floor in a pool of blood. Nothing was broken. She wasn't shot. And they called the death natural causes because she was known for, I'm thinking because this is real personal stuff and I'm thinking twice about whether or not I want to tell it, only because I'm not ashamed to tell it. It needs to be told, but only because I know my Uncle Kenneth probably may have a problem with it. And I just noticed the other day that my Uncle Kenneth has me as not being his friend. He just came to social media within the year. And I often make posts about my ancestors and my mama and my granddaddy and my grandmama. And I make very, very detailed writing stuff because I'm a writer and that's how I heal. That's a part of my healing. That's a part of how I get through the fact that I'm living 9 months in a shelter where I can't pee at night and I got to wear Depends. Like I can't control myself. But no, it's not that I can't. It's that these niggas up in here doing drugs. And when I say niggas, I mean the white niggas and the black niggas. Because you got 80-something-year-old white women around there standing up sleep because they own heroin. Yeah, I said it. That's the kind of stuff that went on in the shelter. So in order for me to be able to look at you today and tell this story without breaking down crying, I've done stuff like make these videos and just talk about it. So I don't know why all of a sudden I'm not a friend on my Uncle Kenneth, my favorite uncle's page. But I would call my cousin Bridget, but she stopped speaking to me a while back. She saying ain't nothing wrong, but she got mad at me from when they were driving me from Shreveport down to Ruston to catch a bus because all of the buses to New Orleans, back to New Orleans, had been canceled when I caught a bus up to my father's to see him before he died. Yeah, I got I called my dad and left a message. I've been calling him since 2015 when I was first sleeping in my car because my show got canceled at Theron Jackson's church, which is why I was sleeping in the car. I had a father in town, Otis Harrison. He's the same Otis Harrison that retired from what we used to know of as Western Electric, but it was the phone company, which was equivalent to the big five that everybody has. It's places, the factories basically. Blue collar work that makes that white collar money. Let's put it that way. They was making $9 an hour back when minimum wage wasn't but $1 in like the late 60s. 69 to be exact, when my mom got pregnant with me. Well, no, 70. When my mom got pregnant. Well, yeah, 69. She was already working there. When she met my daddy, Otis Harrison. Patsy Jenkins met Otis Harrison at Western Electric, which was the phone place that was paying $9 an hour back when minimum wage was only $1.25, and abortion was illegal, and birth control was illegal unless you were married, and then you could only get birth control by a prescription from your doctor. You couldn't just go to Walgreens and pick up condoms back then. That's how the laws were going back in 69, 70, which now in 2025, those are the new laws. Abortion is now illegal in Louisiana after all of those years of it being not so legal. So this is why I tell y'all not to fast forward. I'll be rattling, but it'd be some messages coming back to this, and I might not edit it. I think I'll leave it just like this so that you can watch my channel and read my books, because I'm going to come back to my point, and I got a point, but there's a point within a point within a point. And it is what it is. But Mama met Otis. They didn't really date. They used to get together and fuck. Thank you, Christian, that I can say fuck and not feel bad. They had premarital sex. In the church world, it's called fornication for you Bible thumpers out there. They used to get together and fornicate. It's just free casual sex, what we know of now today. And today in 2025, it's no big deal. But back then, I was born in 71, August of 71, so she got pregnant in 70. In 1970, this was a big deal for two unmarried individuals who weren't even dating. They were never girlfriend and boyfriend. I cannot show you a picture of Otis and Pat together. I cannot show you a picture of Taronda and Otis together. I can show you 1,001 pictures of Taronda and Pat together. A whole bunch of them. Thank you, Mama. Shout out, girl. Hey, good. Speak your name. But anyway, Otis Harrison and Pat used to get together and screw. And one time when they got together to screw, this is a story that Otis tells. And I think Pat told this story too. But this is their actual story. When they got together to screw, she wasn't getting undressed. And he asked her, why aren't you getting undressed? What's going on? She was like, we need to talk first before you take off your clothes. I need to tell you something. She tells Otis that she's pregnant. Otis says, oh, hell to the no. It ain't my child. So long story short, he doesn't speak to her throughout the pregnancy. I don't meet Otis until I'm 4. By the time I meet Otis, he just randomly shows up at the house, as he's known to do. Period in life, in and out of your life. Otis was, and this is Otis had what I call undiagnosed mental illness. Otis was, and the spirit spoke to me, he was a, definitely narcissistic, very heavy narcissistic. He was narcissistic. But he also had histrionic. That's the word I'm looking for. I called Otis after having lived in Slidell, Louisiana. Once I finally got out of the car in 2020, I moved into an apartment in Slidell. And one random day in May of 2022, I called Otis, as I always do, randomly, and leave a voicemail because Otis doesn't talk to me. My younger brother has been doing the same thing since about 2012. Whole nother story, which I'm not going to tell. But I'm going to look at the camera like that for the folks that's watching this who I could tell on. But my brother stopped talking to me in 2012, which is also a part of the 2024 nervous breakdown. But definitely the hinge behind the 2018 strokes, the beginning of the strokes, had everything to do with my brother. And when I say that, it's because I was holding things in. If you know anything about high blood pressure is a silent killer. And that high blood pressure comes from a mix of things. It can be everything from heart problems, just from in your genes, inherited. And it can come from the foods that you eat, definitely that good old soul food and that good old bacon. And it can come from being overweight, or it can come from merely just stress. And all of us have that silent killer stress thing going on. We can all relate to that. I had stress from childhood. I had stress from church hurt, which I would boldly say because people like Erica Campbell want to come out and holler, you don't get hurt when you go to the grocery store. You don't get hurt when you do this. And so why you stop going to church? You don't stop going to the grocery store. It's not that simple, baby. You're not a licensed therapist and you can't speak on psych terms. And even so, even the rest of y'all that are running out here trying to be, and I'm included in that as a healer, it does fall under the life coach type of umbrella. But I need all of you to remember as you're doing the work that you do, because you can do this work without being an actual licensed professional, but you need to have certain critiques about yourself and have certain apologies that you state as you state what you feel is your truth or the truth. You want to make sure that you address the fact that you're not a licensed professional. In massage school, one of the first things that they teach you, one of the main things we say is, I am not a doctor. I cannot diagnose. Going back to me walking around having a stroke on a Wednesday and not getting to the doctor till Monday. I thought it was, and it was on the tip of my tongue. I almost got it. My equilibrium was off. And I thought it was that. It's like a motion sickness thing. And I thought it was that because I called my clients that were nurses. One of them is a nurse practitioner. And I called them and asked them, and I devised a plan according to what I would do if it was a massage session. You get together with other people that know what they know. Y'all put all y'all experience together and all y'all medical information together, and you make a decision. Because some decisions have to be made. You only got an hour that you're going to work on a person. So you got to decide whether or not you're going to ruin this person's plan to get a massage just because they got a bruise or a strange looking scratch, or are you just going to work around it and not touch that area or that leg or that arm? You got to make a decision. So I made a decision not knowing that I'd had a stroke in my abdullah, which is that little round part at the back of your head. That's an area of your brain. I had my third stroke, and I was walking around doing Lyft, delivering groceries for Instacart that particular day in July 14th, 2021. I was out working because I was struggling to pay my rent, period. Before the strokes, I was struggling. I had struggled all of my life from really adulthood up until 2024 to pay rent. There are times in between where I worked hella good jobs and made great money. For that time period, $40,000, $48,000 was a lot of money in the times that I did, but I still struggled to pay rent because I was making sure I paid my tithes. Because if I didn't pay it, they told me I was going to be cursed with a curse. But somewhere in my subconscious, when I stopped paying the tithes, I told myself I was cursed with a curse. So that's probably why from the time I stopped paying the tithes versus going to church and not going to church, somewhere in the back of my mind, I was cursed with a curse. Even though if you'd have asked me in my own thinking, in my own testimony, I would have said, oh, hell no, I ain't cursed. But in my subconscious, I was. And it wasn't until I watched Christian Smith and Yahriel Hill. Yahriel Hill started in September. It wasn't until I watched the show that he did about the little girl that used to go to Anwa. She used to go to um, what's his name church in Chicago. Uh, and now she got the big. She the one that like to come on talking about Beyonce's the devil and all that kind of stuff. You know, she got parts of her that are. But we're not talking about that. I'm not gonna. I will not digress. But he made a video about her. I forget her name. Little black girl, a little bit darker than me, with the long hair. The pseudo lesbians. Her and the other little one that wears the little baseball cap on her head. Pseudo lesbians. The people that claim lesbian is a sin because the Bible says it is, so they've stopped doing it or won't admit that they are still doing it, or will say that they just have done it, but everything about them says the whole lesbian thing. I'm just gonna call it pseudo lesbians because I'll just bring this term up again. But when Vincent Terrell Hill, Buddha of Safe Space on YouTube, just shouted you out. Just shouted you out, nigga. Just shouted you out. Because I love you like that. But when Vincent Hill started doing Safe Space, he exposed the behind the scenes down low affair that he was having with Larry Reed. I'm pulling everything back together because I know I've jumped subjects, so I'm going to pull you up to it. When he was with Larry Reed was married and pastoring, but sleeping with Vincent Hill. Vincent Hill made a video about it. I didn't watch the video. To this day, I have yet to see the video. But when he made the video, I still knew of Larry Reed because I used to watch the show. Larry comes in and he tells all the stories about the who's who in gospel and entertainment, who are doing all kinds of stuff like being on the down low, stealing money, raping kids, raping women, raping horses. Just you name it. Just whatever it is. Larry, and it's very entertaining. It's so entertaining that people like TMZ be watching him. All the who's who be watching him. All the who's who, but people forget who they are when they're watching Larry Reed. Even Iyanla Van Zant has called into the show before or been on the show before. So different people be going on the show telling their business, but they forget how two-faced Larry Reed is. And since I'm an avid watcher, I would watch the show and knew the show front and back and be like, I can't believe they're appearing on that show to talk to him. For example, people like my former pastor, Bishop Carlton Pearson. I went to Carlton Pearson's church. I sang on the album Live at Azusa 3. I sang background studio dubs. I was chosen. I wasn't even on the... Usually they take the praise team and the lead singers in to do studio overdubs. Studio overdubs is what's done in the studio after you do a live recording. So if you go flat, if you forget the lyrics, if y'all mess up, all of that, you can go in the studio, do the overdubs, and tape over all of that. Whenever you have a group like a choir doing it, you don't have to take the whole 70 plus 100 piece choir in. You only pick a few people, about 20 people. It was about 20 of us that went. Mostly those people were the praise team. The praise team are all the people who at Carlton Pearson's church, if you were on the praise team, you had a microphone. So while the choir was standing up singing, the praise team member would be standing there singing too, but they were singing in the mic. So that, and this is how it goes in real mega churches, professionally, only the good notes are being magnified on mic. Yeah, the better notes. And they're the better notes because the people on the praise team are chosen people to sing these notes because they can hear and they're trained vocalists. So it's usually not that they're better than anybody else, or not that if you ain't on the praise team, you can't sing. Because one lady at my former church that I went to fell out with me and to this day rolls her eyes at me because I done went around there to other folks' funerals. She's still rolling eyes because I told her she wasn't praise team material. Now, granted, it was a horrible way to say it. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said it like that. But back in my vocal vomiting days where I could just hadn't learned the wisdom of telling the truth, hadn't learned the ins and outs of the gift that I have, then I just said what I said. And I thought because it was true, she could take it. Because around the time when I went to the recording artist type of church, they would say something like that to you and you weren't to get your feelings hurt. And they didn't care that it hurt your feelings. Because then the wish was that it hurt your feelings so that you wouldn't come back up in their face with their foolishness again. Because in real professional settings, they don't have time for people who are going flat in real life, wanting to have a microphone and being mad because they can't get a microphone. Now you get your little smaller churches. That person, if you ain't but 100 of y'all in there in the church, period, you ain't got but 100 members all together, and you're one of the tithe payers, and most of the people in there ain't got no money, then they not going to lose their tithe payer by not letting your flat singing self sing on the praise team. So you can sing flat, but if you in one of them 100-member churches where they can't afford for you to get mad and take your marbles and go to another playground, they going to let you have a microphone and leave it on. If they got any sense, they'll at least turn your microphone off while y'all performing or singing worship. But they going to leave that microphone on and let you be up there singing flat because they don't want to lose your membership. That is not spiritual. Because the Bible say, let everything be done decent and in order. The Bible says that you're supposed to bring your best and your finest gifts before the Lord. You're supposed to do it with excellence. Meaning, if you can't keep your pitch and you can't stay on note, you do not need a microphone. You really don't even need to be up there in the choir. Go out there and sing in the usher board and sing as loud as you want to from your seat. Stop getting up here in these choirs and on this praise team if you not going to take your little extra money and pay somebody that can sing to do vocal lessons with you. Because it's and I'm talking what's real. And I done switched subjects yet again, but I'm coming back to all of the stuff I was talking about, the Dr. Sabi and all of that. I'm coming back. But I see a lot of these videos, these church videos, these different ones, singing, and these pitches is off. And when you're singing the song of the Tehillah, which is meaning the Hebrew word that translates the song of the Lord, which simply means your pastor preached about something, and then y'all gonna sing but the words, so you're making it up as you go. That's considered the song of the Lord. This is spiritual terms. You should be able to find a 3-part harmony in that without rehearsal. Ain't no rehearsal when you singing the song of the Lord. Ooh, this is a teaching moment right here. I'm gonna go right here. I came from up under Paul Reed, Dr. Paul Reed. Paul Reed was as popular as Brian Carnes is today when it comes to prophets. But I don't even like to compare the two because Brian Carnes ain't got shit on Paul Reed. I'm going to say it like that because Christian A. Smith said I can cuss. But Brian Carnes himself said out of his mouth that Paul Reed was one of his not necessarily that he mentored him one-on-one, but he's somebody that he looked up to and patterned himself after and studied. Like you do when you're a fan of somebody, like a Stevie Wonder. You may sing like Stevie because you listen to all of his music and you got everything he ever put out, and you like the way he sings and the way he, and there's a sound that Stevie Wonder has that don't nobody else have. And you can name singers and you can say, how does she sound? Oh, she got a little bit of Stevie Wonder in her and a little bit of this one and that one and just a little bit of this one and that one. So, and that's the same thing for in the spirit with these prophets. And so Prophet Brian Carnes said that Paul Reed was one of the people that he looked up to. Paul Reed in the 80s and the 90s, mostly the 80s, was a very well-known Church of God in Christ, evangelist, prophet type of money line guy. He was known for miracles, signs, and wonders. Very well known, very well respected. I joined Paul Reed's church in 1990. 1989. The fall of 1989. Paul Reed had started said church. He was a popular prophet that was going all over the world. He was from Jersey. Somewhere in Jersey, that New York area. When he decided to start a church, he started it in Atlanta, Georgia in 1999. No, in 1989. In 1989, I was a freshman at Morris Brown in August of 89. That's where I met James Pullins. He was the gospel choir director. At that time, James Pullins became the minister of music at World Changers, which was Creflo Dollar's church. This was before the Dome. This is when the Dome was nothing but a picture in the vestibule of the church. It was a picture sitting on a little thing holder. They had a blueprint of what the dome would look like, and the intercessors would circle it before and after church as they were praying and interceding for the, I feel the anointing when you're telling the truth. This is why I yet talk about religion and religious stuff, because I cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater. The baby is a real live human being individual that's going to grow into something else one day. And you don't know what that baby's going to grow into. Religion has grown into a two-headed monster, a cross-eyed two-headed monster that swallows and don't show up for funeral. But at one time, it was a real cute little baby. Ooh, that'll preach. Send your offerings to $Yahriel, YAHRIEL is my cash app. $Yahriel. Yes. Venmo, Yahriel's hands at AOL.com. And all of that too. I got all of them. PayPal, all of that. Yahriel's hands at AOL.com. I'm down there. You can find me. Send me my money. Because, in the Pentecostal church, when you say something good or something inspirational or something that hit you in the spirit, they run up there. For this Full Gospel Baptist, I think that really does that. They run up there and throw a little cash on the altar. So cash at me if that hit you. Religion. I don't throw the baby out with the bath water. But I will, thanks to Christian A. Smith, say shit, damn, and motherfucker. Thank you, Christian. Hey, First Lady. Not First Lady, NFL. It's my sister in my head. Because we both look like Jill Scott. Yeah, so religion has turned into something else, but I'm not going to throw it away, and I can't deny it for what it is, or what it has been in my life, and how it has made me into the person that you see today. The person that can go through that. God, I'm the prophet. I hear you, God. I'm the prophet that God can trust with all those years of homelessness and sleeping in my car and 9 months of life at the New Orleans Low Barrier Shelter. Because I was ministering while I was in that shelter. I wasn't doing it with a collar on. I didn't do it with a title. I didn't do it as a member of nobody's church. I wasn't inviting nobody to come to my bishop's church and none of that. But they called me mama. I had 50-year-old plus people calling me mama. As in mom, as in auntie. Others call me auntie, and they still do. You know how you adopt somebody because they're reminding you of an aunt and you start calling them auntie and mom and mama? I had them calling me mama. I didn't ask them to. But the ministry that they experienced from this 3 post-stroke survivor with no car, no address, I still had joy. Huh? That'll preach. No car, no address, no P.O. box, but I had joy. I started trying to document some of this. There are tapes of me in the U-Haul. There are tapes of me the day before I went and turned myself into the mental ward at Tulane Hospital. But it's so personal until I get embarrassed. But God trusted this prophet to lose her mind and live in the shelter. I was in the shelter because I got jumped on in the group home. See, when my next check came in, they let me out the hospital May 21st. No, March 21st. I went in like May 13th. I was out in 10 days. And when they let me out of the hospital, I went to a group home. I thought I was going to a place that would provide a nice place for me to live until I could move into my own spot. My credit wasn't that bad, but the girl that got mad at me because I wouldn't play with her breast in her complimentary massage as I started renting from her to rent a room to do my massage business after she begged me to come and work at her spa suites. She made it so uncomfortable that I could not work there. That's called sexual harassment. And it wasn't sexual harassment. It was just acting funny, doing shit. And so I was like, fuck this. Do you know who I am? I'm Yahriel. I've worked on Mariah Carey. And I say the Mariah Carey part because after I met Mariah Carey was not, by a long shot, my first famous person. I would name Verdine White, which he really wasn't the first either, but from Earth, Wind, and Fire, I met Verdine White and worked on him, and he gave me free tickets to the concert with a backstage pass. 2012. But anyway, I'm saying all of that to say, I say Mariah Carey because she was the first person I worked on. I wasn't a big fan, but I knew of her work. And one of my foster girls, one of my foster children, real life foster parent that lived in my house in Michigan, she was a huge Mariah Carey fan. And so I was proud. Who wouldn't be? That's something to brag about. Those are bragging rights as a therapist. Because out of all the therapists I know, and I've worked in many places for 20 years, I don't know many. I can't name them on 5 hands that got Mariah Carey on this who I worked on list. But after you go through that kind of stuff and you living in your car and you living in extended stay hotels and you in between addresses and the church folk acting funny with you and talking about you, but you keeping your mouth shut, not making comments back on them. And when you go to visit them, they looking at you like you the devil and you got sin in you just because you switched out of their little church. It do kind of try to mess with your self-esteem. It'll have you saying stuff like, I worked on Mariah Carey. When you sitting up trying to figure out how you going to pay your rent, and you got this license, it will make you say, look, I worked on Mariah Carey. When folk don't hire you and you go into their little $50 spa, $50 a client spa, and you used to working at the $300 a client spa. Yeah, you're going to say, I worked on Mariah Carey. Because you're trying to remind yourself who you are. Forget not his benefits. But anyway, I digressed again, but I just had to put that in there because I'm going to stop this. I got to be humble. I got to be humble. This humility thing. If you know me, you know me. If you know me, you know I'm not arrogant. Not by a long shot. And if you know me, also know that I don't be bragging on who I've met and what I've done. I be sharing and telling real stories about stuff that done went down that go with this, and that. I be explaining how the gifts work. I be explaining how you hear something. That's what I wanted to say about when you're hearing in the spirit. I woke up one Saturday in April 2015, and I heard the spirit say, I'm calling you out of the church. And it sounds as natural as somebody sitting next to you just talking to you. But if you look over there, you don't see nobody. Now, there are times you can hear it audibly, and there are times when you hear it mostly in your head, as if somebody may as well be talking to you literally out of your head. That's hearing in the spirit. And that's how you know when it comes to different things in life, period. It's that voice you hear when you're driving home from work, and it says, get off the interstate and take the side street home. only to maybe turn on the radio or get a text from somebody or hear later on that there was a major traffic jam on on the street. In Atlanta, 85-75 is a major. That used to happen all the time. It's a major traffic jam because there was a game downtown, because there was a concert, because the president was in town. Anything can cause a traffic jam. And if you hear that little voice, or you in your head think, or your first mind or something told me, let me jump off the interstate and go this way. That's hearing in the spirit, dear heart. That's how you know. And you never know that you know that you know. You learn this kind of stuff by trial and error. It's life, it's a life lesson. You're taught it. And you're not always going to be right. And that's the main thing. When you start following what you hear in the spirit, you got to then graduate to where you learn between something that's right and something that's coming out of your head, or you just made a mistake, or you misstepped, or sometimes it can be a spirit, an actual spirit, as in demon or unclean thing, or a person that is passed over, that is working for evil. It could be speaking to you and lying to you. Thus, the thing I want to address, I was listening to a thing where they talked about, I won't say who, they were talking about ancestral veneration, and they were talking about what I started talking about as voodoo, and setting up an altar, and how everybody can't set up an altar or shouldn't set up an altar. And the way that they said it in a traditional black Pentecostal church type, or black folk, or black ethnic forewarning that said, don't do that, because if you don't know what you're doing, and it was based on their profession. One person was a real licensed therapist, and the other person was a real practitioner, a voodoo priestess, who came from out of church, Pentecostal church. And so they're talking about their work and their experience. And that is a real thing, of calling on wrong spirits and bad spirits, or listening to deceiving, deceptive spirits, or being psychotic. Hearing voices, hearing instructions on what to do, it is one of the main descriptions of definitely schizophrenia, or just a lot of mental illnesses. Yes, hearing voices, the stuff that I've talked about in the last couple of hours. Look like I've been on here about 3 or 4 hours now. I am going to have to edit this, but I'm going to keep it. This good stuff. But yeah, all of that stuff can be psychotic stuff, but it can also be the workings of a spiritual person that hears and sees in a spirit, that is a psychic medium, that is a worker, that is a healer, that is a clairvoyant, just as much as it can be somebody that's a sociopath, you know. And so the way that you learn these things, and this is stuff I've learned by trial and error. I would say, do be careful if you are setting up an altar and who you put on the altar and all of that. But I'm still living that lesson out and learning who's in and who's out. Now, for me in my house, what's been on my altar since I met one of my spiritual leaders, Dr. Cal Funny Rivers, I speak your name. Dr. Rivers was my person that did a reading on me back in 2015. And I started somewhere along the line of doing ancestors. And the very first ancestor that I did was Harriet Tubman. And she quickly came off my altar because I found her to be pushy in an old school, your grandmama them type of way. She's very vocal about what kind of flowers you put on there, what kind of this, what kind of that. This is a whole nother video. And I ended up, I wouldn't have been as confident to tell this if at number one, she was so dogmatic about some things until I said to Dr. Rivers, I think I'm going to take her off the altar because she a little too pushy. I ain't got time for it because my house don't be clean and she not going to keep fussing at me about dishes in the sink. And that's how she was. It was like inviting my mom to come and live with me, to have Harriet Tubman on the altar. Because your mom and them going to be fussing at you about dishes left in the sink. And when you get grown and you living on your own, you can leave your dishes in the sink if you want to. Because can't nobody tell you what to do. This is a whole nother video. But that was how I was living at the time when I first started ancestral veneration or practicing this altar thing. I didn't know what it was, but I went ahead and tried it. Harriet Tubman was one of my favorite people in history. I had portrayed her growing up as a kid at Midway Baptist Church No. 2. I always did. Harriet Tubman for Black History Month would come out with my granddaddy's rifle, literally, and run up to church and act like I was running slaves. Literally, this really happened. And my great-grandmother, Nancy Ellaby, we speak your name, she used to be crying because of how good Rhonda did when she was doing the Harriet Tubman. So Harriet Tubman was one of the first people I reached out to set up an altar. And I ended up taking her off because she was fussing because my house was messy. Okay, fast forward 2025, I recently this year, as I was unpacking my stuff from storage, found my picture of Harriet Tubman that I have in a paper, a sheet protector. And I took it out. And that's just one of the pictures I have of her. I found that one, and I found Nelson Mandela, because I was keeping it in that black 3-ring binder. And that's my mama right there. And I'm going to take my picture off because they say you ain't supposed to have live beings. But that was a caricature that I had done somewhere and that I put on there because I just wanted to sit it by my mama, which has to do, because I just wanted to be next to her on the picture and I ain't had nowhere to put it because I'm unpacking in a 1-bedroom apartment because I got evicted because I don't have enough room for everything. So, yeah, but with Harriet Tubman, focus. You have to make yourself focus. You have to make yourself. So with Harriet Tubman, I took her off the altar and I told Dr. Rivers about it. But it wasn't until my wonderful professor, Dr. Shirlene Holmes, I speak your name. I speak your name, honey. Dr. Shirlene Holmes, she just crossed over in 2023, I think. 2023. But Dr. Shirlene Holmes was my adjunct professor when I went back to get my degree at Georgia State University. Adjunct meaning that she could retire, but if they asked her to, she could come back and teach classes at Georgia State here and there, maybe to fill in for somebody or just as she wanted to. So she was an adjunct by the time she crossed over. But while I was there, she was just She was Professor Shirlene Holmes, and she was over the drama department for Georgia State University. And she was a black lady, black woman of a particular age. She was in her 60s. And she had gray dreadlocks all the way down to her behind. Long, thick gray dreadlocks. And she had been healed of cancer several times over. I think at least 3 times she had beat cancer. And Dr. Shirlene Holmes, at the time of her crossing, was, matter of fact, I got to get Dr. Holmes' picture and add her to my altar. That's one of the procrastinating things I haven't done. I haven't printed out, because I go to Walgreens and use that little machine. You can use that at Walmart too and several other places where you print out, you could take a file from Facebook and print it out. I want to print out a picture of her and put it on my altar. But that's how I got most of my pictures. I printed them out and put them in frames, actually from Dollar Tree, which ain't $1 no more. But most of the frames, and then some of them are old frames that I have, but that's how I built my altar. But most of it is, yeah. But anyway, Shirlene Holmes, you see how I vacillate? But that's all right. You don't want to fast forward. Just let me play while you doing your workout, because it'd be good stuff. Dr. Holmes traveled the entire world, I'm going to say. I don't know what places she went to, but I know she went to a lot of places on the African continent. But she definitely traveled doing plays that she wrote herself. So she was a playwright, she was a writer, and she was an instructor. Definitely at Georgia State University. I don't know where else she went, but she was a real doctor. And she taught at Georgia State. So I was a film major when I went back to finish my bachelor's. And I also messed around and took an African American history class and ended up switching over to a double major of African American studies. So Dr. Shirlene Holmes fell under both of those categories, African studies and the writing. So when you take film, you can do it at Georgia State at the time when I was there. You could take many avenues. For me, I took the writer's avenue for film. So I don't know a lot about using cameras and lighting and all of that other stuff. So I've had to, and that's why I'm slow with doing things, and I'm slow with, as Ava DuVernay suggested, just go out and start taping. I have a perfectionist mentality, and that's what I'm learning about myself. So it's not ADHD, it's not laziness, it's not triflinity. It's me bringing all of my selves together to be one self and one person, because there are lots of me's in there, and I'll make another video about this. When I say bringing my selves together, you have degenerative selves. This is my phrase that I've coined. I didn't come up with degenerative, but I've started using it in the way that I use it, because the way that I use it, I be considering. You have ages of yourself that are stuck at certain ages. Let's just say if your dog died in a car wreck. If your dog got hit by a car back when you were 13 and he died, you could go on to have many different dogs throughout your life and be 40 years old. But there's still a part of you that will be stuck with the fear of whether or not your dog is going to get hit by a car or whether or not your dog's going to die. That fear is stuck at the 12-year-old or the 13-year-old you who lost the dog back then. So as an adult, you could always carry, and you may voice this, you may not voice this to people. It may actually just be something that's constantly running through your mind. I need to really stop this video because I'm getting lots of phone calls now, and I don't want to lose this video. But you can have it in your mind that something is going to happen. It can be running back and forth in your mind to the point of where it becomes a part of mental illness or a psychosis or a phobia of sorts. That's what I'm trying to say. A phobia. And that's a degenerative self. That's a degenerative self at the age of 12 that's fearful about what's going to happen to your dog now at the age of 50. So one of your healing motives or acts of healing needs to be going back, finding the 12-year-old you that lost the dog when she was 12. You need to find her and get together with the 50-year-old and do things to help nurture that 12-year-old and bring her up. Ooh, I felt the anointing. And bring her up to where she can live a peaceful life with her new dog and accept the fact that whether this dog lives or dies, it's going to live and it's going to die. In other words, I have another dog now that's different from the dog I had when I was 12. This dog is living right now. The dog I had when I was 12 died in a car wreck. But the new dog that I have now that I'm 50 is living. But one day, this dog is going to die. Whether in regular years or in dog years, it's still going to die. It may die from eating bad dog food from China. Or it may die from getting hit by a car on the interstate because it ran out there and because it got out of the yard. I don't know. But at the end of the day, the 50-year-old is balanced enough not to make a big deal out of the fact that the dog's going to die one day. They accept the fact that the dog's going to die one day. And they make decisions to maybe taxidermy the dog when it dies, or get some burial insurance so they can bury the pet, or bury it in the backyard, or have his ashes and dump the ashes wherever in his favorite spot where she used to take the dog to go running with the other dogs for doggy dates. I don't know, but you come up with healthy ways of dealing with the fact that this dog is gonna die one day. Not that it might. It is. Now, whether or not you'll live to see it, you might die before the dog. But in life, we create phobias based on things that happen at certain age points, degenerative age selves that are still alive in us. So inside of me, when my father died and I was crying, the spirit, and I couldn't stop crying, and I didn't know what was wrong with me because I take death pretty good because I'm a death doula. I learned that new word. I found out there's a word for it. I'm a death doula. When I found out about it, then I heard in my spirit the little voice that you hear talking. That's not yelling, it's not screaming, it's not loud. It's just subtle, but there's no one there. But I heard it, but it's in your mind and your brain. I heard in my spirit age 7, age 12, 26, 16, 7, 12, 16, 26. I know for sure. I don't remember vaguely all of them. I would have to go find a journal specifically, but I know it was 7. I know it was 12. I know it was 16. I know it was 26. Those were the ages that I heard coming straight from the Holy, what we would call the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit, which in all actually I've learned could have been my grandmother, could have been my mama, could have been my Aunt Faye, could have been Sheila Davenport, which is a name that I just made up off the top of my head, who lived as a good shrink like Reese Price was. It could have been Reese Price, who was a good shrink that died and crossed over. You know, it could have been any one of them speaking to me. You never know what helper, what guide, what spirit from the other side is speaking to you. But in the church world, we've been taught to call it the Holy Ghost. I said it. And I'm starting my channel back today in my pajama shirt, without my eyebrows drawn in, without my eyelashes on, with my lips partially chapped, because I still haven't gotten up to find my CarMax. And I ain't took my meds or nothing for the day because I've been sitting here talking for several hours now. But I decided I'm not going to put off making these videos anymore because I have a lot and I have a lot to say and it's not getting out. And I'm not going to use an excuse about editing materials because I don't have a Mac right now. There are other materials where I can edit these videos because everybody else and their mama is doing it. I have my trusty film stand that 3 hours ago I started making a video because I was trying to put this on the film stand. This is my camera that I got for $20 from Temu. Usually a camera like that costs at least $80-something at Walmart. Really $380 to $300 at Walmart. That's the kind of camera I got. But with that camera, you literally could do a movie, according to Ava DuVernay. And not just Ava DuVernay. I just wanted to throw her name in there, but because she is the one that tells you just start making the movie. Don't worry about getting picked up or a movie deal. But anyway, I hadn't been making videos from my page that I started in 2019 because I was going through life stuff. I got evicted. I had to live in I lost my mind. Literally. I went to the hospital because I could not stop crying. In the rain. In the dark. Because I was living in the U-Haul. I lost the keys to the U-Haul. So I started crying at the bus stop because U-Haul had to close, so I had to leave. Because I took the keys to the U-Haul to get all the stuff out. And I found myself not unpacking the U-Haul because I really didn't want to subconsciously. Because I didn't have an address to go to. I didn't have an address because the little bitch back in Atlanta where I rented a space to do massage at, she was coming on to me subtly by asking me to work on her breast. When I denied her of such and reminded her that she had signed my form, my intake form that I give people that has their name, address, email address so I can keep up with them and all of that, it also has a clause on there saying I will not flirt with you and I will not disrobe and expose myself and all this other stuff. She had signed that, so she was under contract to lay her ass on the table and allow me to do my regular massage that I do because I'm a professional motherfucker. Thank you, Christian, for allowing me to cuss in my video. But, yeah. This was a regular massage that I was giving her for free because she had allowed me to come in and rent from her. And I wanted her to know how good I was because I had worked on Mariah Carey. So I oftentimes give bosses, business owners, big name people, people who could inspire a lot of other people to come and get a massage. I'll offer you a free massage business wise. It's the same thing they do when you go to the mall and they give you the free corn dog to get you to come over there and get a corn dog. Or they give you Chinese food. They dip in there with the toothpick and give you a little piece of meat so you can come over there and buy a whole meal. That was what I've done with massage. I would give a free massage to a person who could help get me some clients, trying to get my own set of personal clients, because you don't want everybody coming, because there's weirdos out there. There are weird people that don't have good boundaries. Black, white, young, old, and especially the saved Christians. The saved folks is some of the worst experiences that I've had doing massage. Now I got a ingrown hair nail there on my neck because, as you can see, I don't get bumps and stuff like that. But that's what I'm picking on. That's why the camera went there. I didn't digress. I'm really smart, and different things make me think about different things. So I'm making a video. I'm not all dressed up and dooled up. It just is what it is, because this is what it is when you're making videos, to have your own page online. I have a YouTube page. Got 800 and something members. So by the way, if you're watching, like this video and go subscribe to mine and share it. And if you have your own stuff, do what I'm doing. Just start doing it. Because I haven't gotten dressed yet. And I can't use as an excuse not to make the video. Because it's 2025 now, and I don't have as many followers as I would have if I had been making videos every day like people do when they're following their lives and they're getting up all those thousands of people that are following them. Now, some of those people pay for followers, but if you got good content and you're somebody that people would follow and listen to, then it just is what it is. But I've been so busy being a perfectionist until I'm thinking of all the perfect ways to do it, and I don't. So now, as of today, April 4th, Maya Angelou's birthday, and I'm showing the candle because if you've been on this 3-hour video that I'm making, I was carving Maya Angelou's name and birth date in the candle because that's how you dress a candle when you're doing work, W-E-R-K. And technically it's not work, it's just ancestral veneration. I'm honoring and Maya Angelou because it's her birthday, because we honor people on their birthdays. So when you're doing it on your altar, you could definitely get a candle. You want to be careful with candles because candles can set fire. I talked earlier about these chapped lips because I'm dehydrated, because I need to drink water because I've been talking for 4 hours. So, and I don't take my time and drink the water, not because I don't have it, because I got big amounts of water. I always do. But the problem is, and seeing just holding up that bottle of water reminds me of how I had my second stroke, because the lady at the hospital told me the hospital was out of water. I was really out of water because I carry around a big bottle with me all the time. Everywhere I go, there's always a bottle of water. And I'd had a stroke, and the bus brought me. I had a stroke on the bus coming back from my signing my paperwork at my new job out at the spa at the airport, the express spa. You see, one thing leads to another because I got life. And if you were on your treadmill trying to do 20 miles on your treadmill, and you were listening to me, that 20 miles would go by so fast because you was listening to me chitter chatter. So appreciate and love these videos, and don't fast forward because you may miss stories like how I had my second stroke. I had the first stroke on the bus. When the bus pulled over and called the ambulance took me to the hospital. Piedmont Medical. I need to get the right hospital because I wrote a 10-page letter when I got out the hospital on this heifer because she didn't know she was pulling stunts on a writer. And they ended up writing off my $40,000 doctor bill, but I still didn't get to sue them. I should have sued them, but it's hard to sue a hospital because lawyers and doctors go hand in hand, just like preachers, pastors, and deacons. They cover for each other. See, la, ding. I'm at a little ding in there when I edit this. They stick up for each other. Just like these church folks now that's mad at anybody that say they got church hurt. That's a real thing. It's just as big of a thing as a phobia that can lead to mental illness and breakdowns. And you don't get into stuff and declare to people what they do and they don't have, because you're not a licensed professional, Erica Campbell, and you don't know. You don't know. You don't know what a person goes through psychologically when they having meltdowns because somebody at their church told them they was in sin, or God don't love them, or God mad at them because it's a girl that want to marry a girl. You don't get to tell people they don't have church hurt behind that because they went home and cried all night. If it hurt, it hurt. If they paid all of the gross of their tithe money from their check that deducted out $200 to $300 for taxes, Social Security, insurance, and all the other shit, and you can't pay your rent, but you paid your tithes, and now your ass sitting out there on your sofa in the damn driveway, a parking lot. And I'm saying it loud and like this because that's in my life. That has happened. And I had the nervous breakdown in, let's see, I was evicted. I came home from paying my tithes around 1994 to my sofa sitting out there in the middle of the parking lot when I was going to Paul Reed or Bobby Henderson's church. One of them in Atlanta. And because they told me that I was cursed with a curse, I felt bad about myself from 1994 up until 2024 when Vincent Terrell Hill did a video about one of these pseudo dykes. And I bust out crying and could not stop crying watching that YouTube channel. He was doing this thing on his channel called Safe Space, where he talks to people who have been through church hurt, because he's been through church hurt, because he was sleeping with his married pastor, who's a male. He was a male sleeping with a male who was married to a woman. And when that woman left him and went and slept with a woman and married a woman, he got on his channel and he talked about that woman like a dog. And he had custody of the girls, their children. And he talked about that woman for filth because she was a girl married to a girl. Made fun of her. But because he was paying rent when she left the woman that she married, she came back and literally lived in a house in his house with her girls. He bought her a car and everything. So hell, I'm like her. Talk about me like you all. Talk about me like you want to. Please talk about me on your page. Because my rent is free and my car note is free. Because rent is too damn high. And unless you living in a situation like that where your ex-husband paying your bills while he talk about you on his prestigious YouTube channel, you would be sitting up sleeping in the back of a U-Haul just like me. Your ass wouldn't be able to afford the rent either. I almost said reford mistakenly, but my grandfather used to talk like that because my grandfather could not read. He was tall, fine and handsome, big, tall man. He could not read. And he would say words that started with an R where the R wasn't in there because he could not read. And that's not to defame my grandfather. I'm just telling you the truth of why I have a YouTube channel. All of that's in me. Albert Jenkins Sr., I speak your name. He beat the mama. You know what? I just thought about something. He beat the mama that ended up getting out of that same recliner in the same position where that recliner has always sat at 40, 47. That's the street number name of the house that my entire family grew up in. My granddaddy built the house. It still stands today. He always had a recliner by the front door of the same window that my Aunt Boo Baby climbed in the house and found my mother dead on the floor. My mother died September 26, 2013. My cousin Niecy, who died sometime in April of 2022. No, she didn't. She died in September of 2022. Her birthday is April 22nd. My cousin Niecy was 2 years older than me. She was my Aunt Faye's daughter. She died of cancer. This was before we had all of the cancer treatment and research and all of that. My grandparents used to take a Greyhound bus to Houston, Texas, back in the 80s to take Niecy to chemo. Yeah, back then. I've lived that long. So my cousin Niecy came to me in the spirit. And I could not see her like I can see my finger right here on my hand. But I saw her in the spirit, in my mind's eye. And it's a little bit different from your regular eye or just in your memory. And I was talking about this. This will go into, if I were to cut and paste. I'm just going to talk about it all now because I can go back and cut and paste this into a video where I'm describing to people about spiritual gifts and how to know when you're hearing and seeing in the spirit, which also fits in with Vincent Terrell Hill of Safe Space YouTube page, because Vincent Terrell Hill, who used to sleep with Larry Reed, who also has his own YouTube page and whatever, they're social media personalities. They both have personality, but I'm saying all of that to say Vince's page became big when he told that he was messing around with Larry. Larry's page became big when he told about everybody and their mama who's done everything they wasn't supposed to be doing that was taught in the King James Version of the Bible. I said all of that because I used to go to Carlton Pearson's church, and Carlton Pearson is a church pioneer along with, hell, Bobby Henderson and Paul Reed. But Carlton Pearson went on Larry Reed's show when he died. So Larry Reed actually did a special show dedicated to Carlton Pearson, which people paid money to log in and see. And the way the spirit works, I tried to log in and see it because I didn't go to his funeral, but because I was too busy trying to figure out how I was going to pay rent. I didn't go to his funeral. I didn't go back to Tulsa to the funeral, but he had several funerals. One at Todd, not Todd. Is it Todd? Not Todd Hall. Todd Hall is a prophet. Michael Todd. He had it at Michael Todd's church, who was a little boy. When I went to Carlton Pearson's church, I know Michael Todd's mother, Brenda Todd, who is a well-known prophetess evangelist. I rode home to Shreveport from Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Shreveport one Christmas with Brenda Todd. And Mike Todd was in the car with his dad, Tommy Todd. They were in a van, and I was following them in my Ford Escort with his mama, Brenda Todd, in my passenger seat. So they drove home, and just as good people from Shreveport who were all attending the same church in Tulsa. I didn't know them. But when she found out that I was from Shreveport, and just so happened they were driving home to Louisiana too for Christmas, she insisted that I go with them so that I wouldn't be on the road by myself, which is what mothers do. Mothers, and just, if you're going to be a mama, you're going to be a mama. So I will be doing my doctorate degree on something that I've come up with called the Black Mama. I will be doing research on the Black Mama and undiagnosed mental illness. So I digressed again, but I digressed for a reason, because all of this fits together, and I will no longer apologize for it or heavily criticize myself for being a perfectionist, what other people would call a perfectionist, and having the ADHD where my channel is constantly switching. But all of this do go together. It go together. So anyway, Brenda Todd had Michael Todd. Michael Todd was a kid. Michael Todd was a kid so much until I was so into myself. And at the time that I met or knew of or went to church with or lived in Tulsa with the whole Brenda Todd, it was around the age of 26, which is what the Spirit told me about my degenerative selves, okay? 7, 12, 16, and 26. Those were just some of the numbers that I remembered the Holy Spirit speaking in my head. Holy Spirit meaning spirit, could have been an ancestor, could have been a spirit guide. Could have been anything. Could have been anything. So, but it was good. So, when I was in Tulsa at the age of 26, that's when I started therapy about my mom being a textbook narcissist. Which, if you read the book, Elan Golem. Thank you, God. I knew I was going to come up with it. Elan Golem. ELANGOLOMB is the last name. GOLOMB. She has wrote the book of all books for adult children of narcissistic parents. It is a psych book that has been out since maybe like the 90s. I don't know. Look at it and see. But it's, they're constantly updated. But it's one of the books that my licensed professional psychiatrist, who I was referred to after my mama jumped on me, Reese Price, we speak your name. He has crossed over since then. But back in 1998, I started therapy with Reese Price. February or so of 1998, I started therapy with Reese by Chris. What is Chris's last name? I can't remember. But Chris was a white girl that was married to a black guy that's about my skin tone. Chris and I met at Higher Dimensions, Carlton Pearson's church. Chris sang on the praise team with a microphone. See, I've talked about all of this microphone stuff. Chris was one of the praise team singers. Me and Chris went to the studio to do overdubs for Live at Azusa 3, which was recorded live in the place at Azusa in 1998. But it was me and Chris. Me and Chris were friends, as in be at each other's house when church out. And I've always grown up with black and white friends. I have a history, a story of my experience with white friends. And so even as a child, when me and my mother lived in an apartment, we were maybe one of 3 black families that lived in that apartment complex. And it was all white apartment complex off of Golf Links in Shreveport, Louisiana. And we're talking early 70s, like 70, well, actually mid 70s. Because we moved over there when I was, so about 77-ish and up. And that was a time when white people were still calling black people nigger and spitting. I got spat on and called nigger by grown white people as a child in the mid 70s. And that was my norm growing up. And that's why I say black and white. A lot of times I will describe somebody as the white person to fit into my narrative of the healing of the prejudice, degenerative self that experienced prejudice. Because I had white friends, and I'm about to name, of course I don't remember their last names. You don't know last names when you're a kid. But there was Helen. It was a little white girl that lived in the houses across the street from my apartment complex I played with. I don't remember everybody else's name, but I can see them in my mind's eye, which is a good memory back because I remember how they looked, their hair color, their height, their body shapes and stuff, their parents. I can see them in my mind's eye, which is not my spiritual eye, to mean if I were to hear in the spirit, I'm calling you out of the church. In my memory, anyway, I'm getting mixed up with what I'm saying, but I know what I'm saying. But y'all know what I'm saying if you kept up with this whole thing. Everything that I'm saying fits together. So it's not separated. And I'm going to say it with my chest. I'm not all over the place. I'm not. But if you are of a certain age, or if you train yourself to watch my stuff when you're doing certain things that can allow for me to be talking about a smorgasbord of gumbo of things while you're walking, getting your exercise in, walking the dog. You know, when you walk the dog can be a time when you finish watching the video that you started watching the last time you were walking the dog. Or walking 20 miles on the treadmill. You feel like you're about to stop 5 minutes in. Turn my video on and see once you get there. Because I'm going to talk long enough to get you through your mile or your 20 minutes. So let that be your habit, and and send this to others to encourage them to keep up their workout regimen or whatever. But I'm talking about everything from religion to growing up the adult child of a narcissistic parents, to child abuse, to church abuse, to church hurt, to being a licensed professional massage therapist, to medical issues, to strokes, to cancer, to chemotherapy, to what massage does if you're taking chemotherapy and why your therapist told you they can't work on you because you have cancer. We can talk about all of that. Listen to my videos. You'll find out the answer to that. And it's real, it's true, and it's intelligent information. Nothing that I'm telling you is a lie. I'm covering for a whole lot of people. I personally know, have worked with, have gone to church with, have worked on in massage therapy, very big name people. I don't always tell names. But if it ain't nothing to hide about you, I say your name. I make it a point, and this goes out to my Facebook people and all of that, my social media, TikTok bloggers and stuff. Be careful who you expose and what you talk about, because I see them a lot of times, and I always think I wouldn't have said their name. I wouldn't have said this. I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have done. With me, you're gonna figure some stuff out, because if you stalk me and you find pictures, you'll see pictures of me with different folks. But some stories could defame the person, so I won't tell it. But I'm only telling the story to help you learn about the life lesson, the memoir. Because I'm a memoirist behind it. It's never evil intent. It's never, and you can sue me if you want to. I got the backup to show my stuff is true, but I don't make up stuff and I don't exaggerate stuff on nobody. Like I said with Larry Reed. Me and Larry Reed used to inbox. I never met him in person, but in the inbox, before somebody hacked my Facebook page was hacked as of maybe like July of 2023, before I was evicted. But from July 2023 all the way back, this is way before Carlton Pearson's funeral, before Carlton Pearson died, way back, me and Larry Reed used to inbox back and forth on Facebook, because I know people and I know stories that he would be telling. And a lot of times I would correct him about stuff he told that wasn't accurate, it wasn't true, and would stick up for people behind the scenes and stuff. So just know, I ain't got to make up nothing. You sue me if you want to, but I'm saying what I'm saying. I lost respect for Larry because, like I said, if you are a big time person, like a person with all these followers on social media, yeah, I will offer you a free massage so that you can shout me out and say, this is one of the best and the most spiritual massage therapists I've ever been with. She's this and this and that, because my gifts of healing show up in massage sessions. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Reiki is real. I'm a Reiki master. I've been on the phone talking with people that told me something was hurting and started doing Reiki, and all of a sudden they ain't going to the hospital no more because their stomach hurt. Ain't hurting no more. Kenny Cornelius. And it's scary and it's spooky. But God uses me. And I said that with my chest, and I don't apologize for it no more. Now that I done found out that folks was swallowed up around the Puff Daddy's parties, Christian A. Smith said I could say shit, so I say shit. Just when I write mine, I spell it SHYT. Because in Peaceful Tree, unshameless plug. In Peaceful Tree, I'm using those words as I talk about the Peaceful Tree Church of the Living God of Miracles, Signs, and Wonders. Pastored and founded by, now who is this beating on my door like the police? I got a neighbor that likes to come and beat on my door like she the police. I only must know her like that. But I sit with my door open because I like to let the sun in. And I got to go see what she wants. She mad. Just like it may be serious. She finna be on video too. Yes, ma'am. You know I done told you about knocking on my door like you the police. Yeah, man. You know what? And they seem like they ain't all that right either. It's some young people. They seem like late teens age. I don't know which house. But knock on his because I was wondering if they was in his house. Look, she got a right to be mad. I wish I knew how to turn this camera around, but I'm going to do it like this just to show y'all. That's my neighbor. She's a woman of a particular age like me, over 50. And she wearing her Daisy Dukes and her cute little locks. She knocking, this her next door, she knocking trying to find out who in this U-Haul. Do you know which house? That's what she trying to find out. I told her she be knocking like she the police. Yeah, she not trying to find, that's what she trying to ask you, but the very next door? Okay. All right then. Okay, so that was my other neighbor next door. Ooh, y'all getting the good stuff, hands on. So this is my new little house that I moved into. I'm gonna go out here and just take a picture. I got on drawers. I got on my bunion. That's for my bunion on my foot and my infections in my blood system. This is my apartment building. I don't know if y'all can see it, but it's like 4 of us. Everybody done lived in a shelter. So this is New Orleans apartment living. That was my neighbor next door. But I got a 1-bedroom shotgun, and it's really cute. But when I had everything delivered here from after my eviction, after I got my stuff out of storage, my stuff was in a U-Haul storage for over a year. Now it's like nowhere to put it. So I got stuff everywhere, which also plays a part on the psyche. But because God is good and I got my ancestor altar lit, the ancestors have been coming in, helping me and healing me through some stuff. They ain't got nothing on the psychiatrist ain't got nothing on my ancestors. Here she come back. You know what? Oh, boy next door. What's his name? Troy? What's his name? Yeah. Well, anyway, that ain't what he told me his name was. He just came to the door. He said it's the people in the very house right here next door.
What, right here?
Yeah. He said that's the house. It ain't all the other ones. Yep. He said right next door. And they some teenagers. Hey, friend, be careful. I know you mad. Be careful. Use your mind. See, I'm having to warn her because, see, she the kind of person that'll cuss you out. She probably got a knife in there in the back of them pants, in the back of them Daisy Dukes she got on. So she don't care. Because she just gave me the, bitch, please. Look, when I said be careful, but I'm warning her because when you're in your anger. See, first of all, this is New Orleans. New Orleans is a different type of black folk from any other black folk you've ever lived around. This whole state. Friend, be careful. Come here. I know you're mad. They do. It probably was cars out there. Because you know how this little area go. And they've had it for a couple of days. They've had the U-Haul for a couple of days, so they should be moved in by now. So but I'm telling you to be careful. They know. They seem like they like 19, 20-ish. No. But they got that whole street vibe on them. And when I say street, I mean...
Me too. That's why
might have a gun or something. No, you don't. You know what, friend? You're not going to have it in my memory that somebody shot your ass. And now I got to live that down and get over that. No, because I should have told her not to go around there and holler at them because I knew she was already mad. But I ain't want to say nothing. Now she in a wheelchair because they shot her in the back. That's how it happened.
Park in front of your door.
I agree, friend.
Cars right down.
They was parking it like where that great Jeep is. They've been parking it like up in there, in
That's the
there.
old lady house.
But they, it's about 3 or 4 of them. I've seen boys and girls, mostly guys. But you know,
That's
I
her
just moved from up out of
grandchildren.
Low Barrier. They got that whole vibe. And that when I say vibe in Low Barrier,
I
watch your
got them
mouth.
bitch too.
Watch your mouth. I see, but look, don't.
Don't mind jumping
Your
through.
hair cute. Your hair cute,
So
friend.
do.
It is. But watch how you go around there just to keep down confusion. It ain't about whether or
No,
not you
I ain't go
scared.
around there. Oh, I just
It ain't about whether or not you got a
nobody
gun
ain't come
too.
to the door. 'Cause I want to say, how you doing? Can you please be kind enough to move your truck?
It's probably, they should be turning it
Oh,
in unless they done stole it like I did that time.
yeah, they ain't stealing nothing. That shit gonna catch up.
They got a big old hole up in there. I hope that was in there before they did it, because they gonna pay for that, baby.
Oh, they checked that shit.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, they because that's where the lights was. That's a hole from where they ran into some. Why am I here being messy and helpful? See, that's just a part of my personality. That's how I do what I do. But while you playing, it's also ministry. What I just did was, see, that's how my gift worked. I gave her an example, and God forbid, and it's not going to happen, the blood of Jesus over that ever happening. But that's how it happens. She's mad as hell, but she's New Orleans too, so she's street. And she can hold her own. Let me turn my light back on. That light was giving good light. She can hold her own. So she's going over there to knock on their door and be a little bit off the chain. It's not going to be nice. Not to say that she's finna go over there and cuss them out, but she's finna go over there with a certain tone and a certain choice of words that says, get your fucking U-Haul truck from out in front of my house. That's what she's finna go over there and do. I'm saying to her, go around there and introduce yourself. Hey, my name's Susie. What's your name? Okay. Listen, I'm in the apartment where your U-Haul truck is. Is that your U-Haul truck out there? Yeah, right in front of my house. And I hadn't been able to park my car and get my groceries out and stuff like that. So I was just wondering, are y'all going to be moving it anytime soon? Are y'all going to move it? How long y'all got it? Have y'all gotten y'all stuff out yet? Yeah, well, welcome to the neighborhood, blah, 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 blah. That's what I'm suggesting to her to do. On the flip, she ready to go around and say, is this your fucking truck? Come get your goddamn truck. Because you know it's in front of somebody's house. This your address right here. My address is blankety blank blank blank. Your address is blankety blank blank blank. Why is your blah 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 blah? And then what I'm saying to her is, the folks that I saw look like trouble. They look like they got a gun. They look like they steal too. And I've been watching them for the last few days because I sit up in here with the front door open like that so that I can get light here. And I got real live flowers. Those are roses, sunflowers, and fresh lilies on my ancestor altar. That's my cousin David. Hey, David. David Crowder, we speak your name. You know, my grandmama Niecy's down there. My cousin Niecy that I was telling y'all about, they used to go to Houston to get her chemotherapy. But they're looking out for me. They're watching out for me. So it's not that I'm afraid. I just was concerned because I've been sitting here in my recliner, twisting my locks, you know, mixing my cake, mixing my shea butter and doing what I'm doing. And I saw them walking by and I thought, oh, Lord, they bad neighborhood. Because, see, the good white folks is in this neighborhood. Good white folks as in the white folks that didn't like me back in the day when I was growing up on Golf Links Boulevard. And they used to spit on me and call me nigger. One of my earliest memories with racism was moving into that apartment complex. Used to play with Helen and Bucky and them. And while we would be playing, they mamas would come outside and call them and say, come in the house. Like if we were in the middle of a game of jacks or jump rope or whatever we were outside playing, because we were kids, it was the 70s, and we played for real outside. We didn't have video games. So I would go and knock on the door, and the child would come to the door. Stephanie, I think that was one of them. Stephanie lived in the apartment complex. Stephanie would come to the door, and I'd be like, when you coming back outside to finish our jack game? You know, whatever. She would be crying sometimes, or maybe have a little tear falling, or whispering with the door half closed. I can't come back out. My mom says I can't play with niggers. Yeah. I'll repeat the story so you don't have to rewind it and make me say it again. Mess up your workout walker. You're walking your dog, you know, because you got your plastic dog bag in your hand to pick up his poop. If he pooping out there, you should be picking it up. So while you walking your dog, you don't have to. When I was growing up, one of my first early experiences in Shreveport, Louisiana, around 1978-ish, I would say, I made friends in the all-white apartment complex that me and my mother had moved to. There was a swimming pool in the middle and lots of apartments around the, complex. I would be outside playing with new friend Stephanie. And she would go in the house to maybe go pee or something like that, or her mom would call her in the house. After so many minutes, 30 minutes later, 15, whatever, I go knock on the door and ask if she's coming back out to finish our jack game or jump rope or whatever we were playing. And she would be crying because her mother had fussed at her and insisted that she could not come back outside and play with that girl from apartment 205 named Taronda Jenkins because she was a little black girl. Unlike said neighbor that I just introduced y'all to, I was from Shreveport, not New Orleans. I had the white girl voice. I knew how to code switch. My mother trained me in code switching from as far back as then until whenever. But I grew up knowing how to change my dialect. I can talk just like this if I need to. I can talk like I talk to my granddad because he can't read. So I got to make my words sound like this and break my stuff off so that I'm not sounding like I'm trying to act like I'm better than him. So I talk like this if I'm talking to my granddaddy. And if I was talking to Stephanie's mom, I would say, can Stephanie come out and play? Yeah. So I knew how to code switch. I came from a family who was taking me to church. I was baptized at the age of 7. So we went to Midway Baptist Church number 2. My granddad and my granddaddy smoked. And because it was a missionary Baptist church, they could smoke on the parking lot while the preacher was up preaching and stuff. But other than that, my folks didn't drink. They cuss at home, but not at church. So you learned the essence of vacillating in between different types of selves. We knew that when we turned on the Myrtle Street from off of Allen Avenue, I'm talking Shreveport now. When you got off the interstate, Myrtle Street was a one-way. You got off the interstate at Allen Avenue. Don't know if it's still there because they've twisted so much stuff. I get lost now when I go to Shreveport. But I would turn left on the Myrtle Street. That's when they would turn down the radio. If we had the Prince or the Michael Jackson up loud or B.B. King or whatever we was listening to, you turn that all the way down, if not off, because you on holy ground. It's Myrtle Street. 1535 Myrtle Street, Midway Baptist Church number 2 sat right there in the middle. Shout out to Reverend Bass, Reverend M.B. Bass, Morris Brown Bass. And I went to Morris Brown College. Isn't that funny? But yeah, Morris Brown Bass was the pastor for many, many, many years. But I was trained on how to act. I acted a certain way in public. I acted a certain way when I was around other people. I acted a certain way when I was around my church people. We gonna turn down this music. I acted a certain way if we were in the grocery store. Taronda, grandmother is not buying you that today. I never called my grandmother grandmother. It was my dear. And actually, we didn't even have all them D's in there. It was my dear. My dear. My dear, you'll buy me some Hubba Bubba? I remember when those gums first came out, Bubblicious and Hubba Bubba. And that's usually what grandmother not going to buy that today. I'm going to give you the gum out of my purse, trying to talk proper when she can't, because she couldn't code switch like I could. But my mama taught me how to code switch. My mama was different from all of her brothers and sisters. She's the best code switcher out of all 7 of them. I don't even know if they taught their kids to code switch. Well, I know Bridget. Bridget can talk proper. Bridget know how to code switch. But yeah. There's nothing about me that would make your white mama not want you to play with me. And Stephanie's mama would call her in the house anytime I was out there playing. Now, it could be when the boyfriend or the daddy was there, he would know she was out there playing with the nigger. And he would insist that the mama call her in the house. Maybe it wasn't the mama. Maybe it was just the daddy or the boyfriend, whoever that was over there. I don't know. Because I never went in their house because I was a nigger. Now, Helen, that lived in the houses across the street from our apartment complex, I went up in her house. Her mama used to let me come in there. So I met her mama. I don't know if I can't remember if she had a dad now, but I know she had other siblings, brothers. But I went in their house. I never experienced that with Helen. Helen never called me nigger unless we got mad about something. And I think we got mad one time and she did it because we were having a fight. But, kid stuff, children stuff. But for the most part, I didn't deal with that back and forth stuff with Helen where I couldn't come over her house or her mom was mean to me or acting funny with me. Her mama didn't teach her that. I don't remember Helen's last name, but she was a little older than me. But great memories of Helen being a great person to play with. But race played a factor growing up as a kid with these children. And it mostly would come from their parents. So there were many times different ones got called inside. Bucky was the grandson of the apartment leasing manager. I don't forgot her name right now. It'll come to me once. But he had a tendency, like Helen, he typically didn't do the racial stuff, but as soon as they were losing in a game of dodgeball or anything, getting mad over kid stuff, jacks or whatever, that's when I would become the nigger. So it would be nothing for them to slip up and snap at me about being black. So subconsciously, mentally, you grow up with this understanding of the difference in the races. And it's a poor, bad social reality. But it is what it is. I really need to stop this video and start doing it on the camera because I keep getting calls through and I don't want to lose what I have. But I'm going to stop here and start back up with some of the stuff. I've talked about so much stuff, but y'all done met my neighbors. You done seen my house. You done seen me in my pajamas that I bought while I was around the Low Barrier shelter. I like to call it Low Barrel because that's my Ebonics way of pronouncing it. Because that's how Southern country people say a word. A word like Low Barrier would be pronounced Low Barrel if my grandmother was saying it. And not because my grandmother could read. And not because she couldn't read or she didn't know how to pronounce it. It's just the thing within the black race of changing the way we pronounce and say things by saying it according to how the elders would have said it, because many of them just spoke in Ebonics. And a lot of times it was because they dropped out of school in grade school. Number one, because a lot of times they didn't have schools back in the 20s and before, or sometimes you had to go to stop going to school to come and work the farm or just work, period. Work around the house, take care of, younger children while your parents went to work. So you couldn't go to school, which affected their reading, even though after that you can still learn and you can still go and take reading lessons. But what I later found out, and this was with another family member, sometimes there's undiagnosed dyslexia that is affecting your ability to learn to read. So yeah, there's lots of topics I want to talk about, but I'm going to stop here. This is the revolution of Yahriel 007. Yahfire.com is my website, which I'll eventually have back up. It's April 4th, 2025. It is the birthday of the great ancestor, Maya Angelou, who has been rocking my altar since Mother Harriet Tubman got put out back in the day. So Maya Angelou has been there. Zora Neale Hurston is there. Octavia Butler, the first science fiction black female writer. She's known for that. James Baldwin is there for his writing. So I depend on those writers to assist me in finishing stuff like Peaceful Tree and the writings that I do. And it's how I venerate my altar. So before I scare another person who's spiritual like me, who's discerning like me, who hears like me, who sees like me, and these gifts are new, and you've only known them in church through watching the prophets work, and then you gifts start manifesting in you through, maybe you've seen your pastor do it or some well-known evangelist, prophet, or mother in Zion, and you don't know the extent of your gifts. Because another thing they do in church, which is what they did in one of my churches when I first came to Detroit, they try and, because they've only seen the pastor do it, and the pastor is well known and well respected and traveled with great mothers in Zion that are well known and well respected, with the same anointings that Bishop Charles Harrison Mason had. They've worked with people like that. So they thought that that kind of power is not in the pew. I'm talking church dialect now. I'm using some church terms for my church people that are watching. But there is power in the pew. Power in the pew meaning there are those of us who, like the young lady that I mentioned that made the Instagram video, which I'll say her name when I go back and find her name. She's still living. She young. She's a young, butch, little, and I don't mean any of these in any kind of derogative way for the LGBTQ plus community that's listening. But she is what's known of as a stud. That's a female who carries herself more like a man than a woman, or maybe absolutely like a man, or dresses boyishly in boy clothes, tomboy clothes. She is a well-known artist right now. She's making paintings and artistry, and she was telling a story in a video on Instagram this week in 2025, and it's now, well, we just hit April 1st this week, April 2025. She was telling a story that her psychiatrist that she sees encouraged her to refer to her church history as cult history and not as church, to address her church hurt. She is the child of a preacher, male and female preachers. PK. She's a PK. That means your dad and your mom were pastors of a church. And so everybody in the church were watching you to make sure that you abided by all of the things that are taught and believed in the doctrines and the practices of the people who live by the King's Little Book, is what I like to call it, because that's what I called it in a documentary that I started in film school. But the King James version of the Bible, which was originally stolen. The Bible itself, the books from the Bible, the Septuagint and the Dead Sea Scrolls and all of that stuff, all of that information was stolen from Kemet, which is now what, Ethiopia, Egypt, I think. It's now Northeast Africa. But we're talking about Africa back when it was Aculabon, I can't talk. That's that stroke getting in there. But Alcabon, I think it is. I'm getting my words mixed up. It's that stroke thing coming in. But anyway, before Africa was renamed by a colonizing white person, Africa itself was not the original name of the continent. It's Acubalon. And that space that they now call Egypt was called Kemet, Kemit. In that, people were already practicing what they now refer to as miracles, signs, and wonders and stuff. It was alchemy, Alchemy, alchemy. And that's actually what Jesus did. Jesus was an alchemist. Whether they were calling it that back then or not, that's how we describe it today. And that simply meant that he was a person that fasted and prayed. He was a good person, a good-hearted person that lived his life by fasting and praying. He did good things, and he helped people. And his alchemy, which is the original word for alchemist, but alchemy is what occurred when he reached a certain height spiritually. That's all alchemy is. It means that you fasted, you prayed, you lived a certain way. And fasting isn't just from food. It can be from sex. It can be from certain types of food. It can be from certain types of behavior. It can simply be from, you can fast from literally talking to people. You can go by yourself, get to yourself and not talk to anyone. That's a form of fasting. And if you do that, then that's going to cause you to be very in tune with the spirit. It's another level. Speaking in tongues is a level in the spirit. Speaking in tongues, which has been narrowed down to black Pentecostal type churches or white, depending on whatever your denomination is. But in Christianity, Pentecostalism meshes with people who are baptized in the Holy Spirit, quote unquote, filled with a Holy Ghost, things of that nature. That means you speak in tongues and you can lay hands on people and you do all kind of things that the Bible, people that read the Bible have classified it as spiritual gifts. All of this stuff existed before what we call it today as the baptism of the Holy Ghost. This was going on way back in Egypt, in Kemet, before they even had lights. Electricity was going on after the Moors came through that Europe area and taught them how to light the streets. And they even have streets altogether and pave them. The Moors are black people, smart black people with turbans on their heads. Do your research. Moor, Moor. So that's some of the stuff I'll be talking about here. I promised to do this when I first started the channel. If you go back and watch some of my very first shows in April of 2019, I just never got around to it because things had to be perfect for me to make a video. My eyebrows had to be perfectly arched and drawn back in, and I had to have on eyelashes, and my hair had to be perfectly twisted or have on a really nice head wrap covering up the new growth. But you know what? We're just going to turn it all into video like I did earlier. You see how this one piece is sticking together? I ain't put nothing but gel on it. I didn't finish showing you how to twist it, but I'll make videos showing you how to twist your locks. But yeah, as of April 4th, 2025, Maya Angelou's birthday, Maya Angelou, we speak your name, I am going to start finishing what I start. My good Judy from Morris Brown College, I was her senior guide back when she first came to Morris Brown. She's older than me, but she came to college a little bit later. And I ended up being her student guide freshman year when she came to Morris Brown. But Stacy Morris, Dr. Stacy Morris, she is now a school teacher. She's been a school dean. She's just good people. She's out there living her good life. But Dr. Stacy Morris used to always tell me, I started writing Peaceful Tree back in 1999. It dropped in my spirit when I was in prayer with Dr. Carlton Pearson. We speak your name. Yep. 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 I was in prayer with Carlton Pearson at Higher Dimensions Family Church on my knees with my book, my bottle of water, my towel to wipe my tears that I'm always going to have, bottle of water, and I had my notebook, my journal. I always got this and paper because I knew I was a songwriter. So you never know when Tehillah, the song of the Lord, is going to come for me all the time. There's nothing for me to wake up hearing music in my head like the radio on. The Tehillah, God will give me another song. Literally. That's been going on since 1996. That's the kind of spiritual I've been. And I was ashamed of myself because I wasn't paying tithes and I wasn't wearing the nice hats and driving the nice cars, and I'd been evicted and I was struggling to pay my rent and I didn't have this or that. And I judged myself so harshly based on church doctrine and church way. And that's not blaming the church for myself at all. But I'm not going to spend time apologizing for that. I'm spending time telling my story the way it happened to me. Thank you, Christian Smith. Nobody gets to judge it because it's my story. It's how it happened to me. You don't determine whether it's right or wrong, good or bad. It just is. It's not made up. It's not far-fetched. It's not exaggerated. It is what it is. And I've lived my life and have ended up with church hurt, which I proudly say. Because prior to having the nervous breakdown, I was ashamed to call it that. Because people like Erica Campbell, the big-time Grammy Award-winning gospel person with the too tight of clothes. Yeah, I said it. Because I went from 1995 until nowish abstaining. I got the holiness behind my life to talk. I can talk. And like they teach you in massage school, not to wear a tight shirt, a tight red shirt when you working on people. They literally taught me that at Blue Cliff College in Shreveport, Louisiana. Thank you, Faye Free. She was our head administrator. But they taught us in ethics training not to wear a tight red t-shirt with your big breast, if you have them, and go and work on a massage client. That was a no-no because it would stimulate the client, male or female. You're stimulating your client sensually. They didn't teach me that at the church. They taught, well, at the church, yeah, the mother's going to tell you what not to wear. But at massage school around the Blue Cliff College in Shreveport, Louisiana, one of the things they taught me was not to wear certain things and not to have certain color sheets because it was all a part of the psychological, sensual seduction of a human being. Therefore, I wasn't doing anything wrong when them 3 white people came down to the W Spa and lied on Taronda and said she sexually harassed them. Ain't no way. Not with who I am. And if you know me, you're going to be like, what? The who? What? That shit made me have a nervous breakdown. Thank you, Joey Dettenber, for firing me because I'm stronger now. And I've lived to my YouTube page where I can tell our story. You fired me because I went back to school out of struggling to pay my rent. I said, you know what? I'm going to go get my film degree so I can write these books. No, you ain't got to have all of that to write a book. Just like I said earlier, you don't have to have a therapist license to be a life coach, but it would help and it would be good and it would be smart legally because we're moving into a time where folks starting to sue folks for what they telling them on these church altars. Y'all can keep telling folk they got a demon in them because they want to marry a man or same sex gender if you want to, or they a man and want to wear a dress and you tell him he need a demon cast off of him. Some people actually do have evil spirits in them or deceptive spirits, but some folks is just psychological, and then some folks that's just what they want to do. It could be carried over from another life when they really did wear dresses because they was a woman. And your spirit mind has to know how to decipher between what the Holy Spirit is telling you, what you're picking up in the spirit, or what you know in your educated mind. You can't just spit everything out at people, and you just can't declare to people that church hurt is a bunch of bull because when you get mad at the grocery store, you don't decide you're not going back to Walmart because you got mad at Walmart. That's as much buttery bullshit as it is as you putting on that tight-ass white dress, putting it on your album cover with your titties sitting up nice and perky and your big booty out nice and round. You was wrong. Didn't mean you wasn't saved. Didn't mean your intention was to look a certain way. But because Erica, around to your residence where you was born and raised, you and Goo and Tina and all of y'all was blessed with ass and tits. The good kind that men and women that like women love. You have the perfect body. You have the bodies most of us that got a sense enough to know what's nice or been taught by certain men what's nice and what's not nice. Anyway, that we all like. I was a flat booty sister. I was teased terribly from a very young age, as far back as I can remember, about my flat booty. Being a black girl with a flat booty is not nice. You can walk by a group of boys as a teen, as a junior high school, and they be like, oh, her booty flat. And they'll be naming all the girls who booty nice and round and yours is flat. So I know for a fact I am a black girl with a pretty face, with nice hair, very funny, very talented, but she got a flat booty. I used to always hear that. Trying pretty, but she ain't fine. That's what I grew up on. She pretty, but she ain't fine. So, Erica, you and Goon them and Tina and them, y'all fine. Y'all got them big old booties and them nice hips with nice waistlines to go with it. You can actually wear a belt around your waist. Really fine enough to wear it without a girdle and still be thick. But I'm sure y'all put them on because we're taught as little girls to wear our girdles. And if you in Church of God in Christ, they teach you to wear a girdle anyway. Because if you got a big booty, your booty ain't supposed to be flopping when you walk. Because when you got a big booty, it's going to jiggle when you wiggle. But if you put on a girdle, it'll hold stiff so that when you walk, you're not seducing the men. Because men's seduction is a real thing. And I know y'all little millennials and under generation Z and Y and all the rest of y'all like to think that it don't matter what you wear and you should be able to wear whatever you want to and not get hurt. That's a lie. I'm Generation X and I'm finna tell you how they raised us. How the folks raised us and they was right. Now I don't throw out my baby with my bath water. Go back and rewind if you want to know what I mean by that. But when it comes to the rules that they taught us growing up, if you dress like a hoe, they gonna treat you like a hoe. From the one that screw you to the one that rape you. It's gonna happen. Now that was so churchy. If you churchy, you got that. Because to say something loud like this and then lower it down like this, that's a thing in the Black Pentecostal church. Sidebar. That's why I tell y'all, subscribe to my channel. Share my channel with your favorite friend. Look at the number where I said what I said, when I said how I said what I said. And tell them what to fast forward to. But they really do need to come and eat the whole roll. Because there's a lot of nutrition in what I got to say. I'm going to stop this video so I don't lose this video. Because this 3 hours, 44 minutes, and 53, 54, 55 good seconds of good talking. But I'm going to come back and finish what I got to say. Because I got stuff to say. Love y'all. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe. That's what folks do when they can't read. Subscribe to my channel. Bye. Love you. Hit the like button. As my daddy used to say, lag instead of like. I don't too much lag, huh?